Good evening, all. Welcome to this week's Midweek Geek. I will introduce Sean, Major's Music, as soon as he returns. But he's
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. I think you'd gone to get coffee.
Yeah, it was already brewed. I just had to grab the cup.
Oh, splendid! No, that's well organised of you. When I go to make tea, it usually involves boiling the kettle while I'm down there because I'm not organised. I believe Elfbait will be joining us in a bit. I don't know if anybody else is joining us tonight, but we have some people in chat already. Halakar, RPG Grandma, hello. Hope you're all well. It did show 12 people watching, and it's just dropped to 7. But so I've clearly scared people off. Hello, Brian. How are you? As always, we are simultaneously streaming this on multiple channels. At the moment, it's just my own and Major's Musings. I'd imagine Elfbait will when he joins us. So share that love around. And hello, Kabuki Kid. Hope you're well. So, I don't know what time Elfbait's got a work meeting. He didn't know what time he would be in. Crafting Gamer. YouTube's on point tonight. The commercial I got for entering the stream was a beer commercial. Yes, that works. That works. May I ask which beer? Is it a good beer? Or is it a dodgy beer? Or didn't you pay any attention?
Skip ad. Skip ad.
Skip ad. Yeah, skip ad. Yeah, go away. Go away. Adverts. Any games then this last week, Sean? I believe we did have one, didn't we?
Yeah,
I'm not sure I want that answer. Okay. Okay, Crafting Gamer. Don't tell me which beer it is then. Go on then, Sean.
Yeah, I played your game on Saturday.
You did?
So yeah. Let me see. I ran my usual 5th ed game and played in an OSE game last night. So played into, ran 1.
Good.
But Saturday was fun, fleshing out my bruiser half orc, yes. Perfecting my bad Slavic accent.
Would you like to do your accent for the viewers?
No, I think I'll pass.
Why not? It was great.
Oh, you're going to make me do accent? Yes, okay, yeah. He's bad accent, but he's fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it adds something. It adds something. Of course, I did a video on voices. That my first ever short. I recorded it, and then I realized I had to adjust it to be either square or portrait size to count as a short, because I record everything landscape.
So right. Do you record on your phone? Do you use your phone?
No. Okay. I never record on my phone. No.
Oh, what editing software do you use?
VSDC. It's a free download. I found out how to do it.
Right. Yeah, because you can create a vertical. So.
Yeah. But I just had to play around. But I didn't realize I had to do that. I'd always wondered why I'd never had anything about shorts ever appearing on my channel.
I had to figure it out too, and they have to be 60 seconds or less, and they have to be vertical.
I knew they had to be short, but I didn't realize about the whole vertical thing. So
yeah,
and then it appeared. I was like, oh right, okay. But yes, that was my my evil bad guy voice, and it is quite simple. I mean, the single most important aspect of an evil bad guy is the English accent. If you think about it, all the best film bad guy actors, Christopher Lee, Alan Rickman, name any better bad guy actors than either of those two. They're English.
I think it's more because they're good actors.
That is also true. That is true. But the English voice certainly helps. And the way they speak. And it's that sort of that condescending tone, I think, that bad guys need to have. So they're the bad guy.
I'm not going to disagree, but I do think there's merit in variety.
I just like my condescending English bad guys, I guess.
It's good to have a favorite.
Yes. But of course, yeah, you can have all sorts of bad guys. I mean, that was just a bit of a tongue-in-cheek video. But I mean, quite frankly, Christopher Lee and Alan Rickman, absolute genius actors, the pair of them. Absolute genius actors.
Fun fact, Die Hard was Alan Rickman's first feature film.
Was it?
It was, yeah. He was mainly a theater guy to that point with some television credits. I remember in high school seeing I think it was a BBC, made for BBC, Romeo and Juliet production, and Alan Rickman shows up as Tybalt, and of course we all knew him as Hans Gruber. So it was like, Hans!
Yeah, and he just sort of burst onto the scene with Die Hard, didn't he? And he's playing great bad guys ever since. Nottingham, Kabuki Kids mentioned that. Absolutely splendid. Hello, Doof. Seen you popped in, and Slan's popped in as well. Hello, Slan.
Yeah. Shortly after Die Hard, he did a movie with Kevin Kline called The January Man, where he plays a ditzy kind of stoner good guy. It was kind of jarring to see him in that. Again, expected the villain.
I've not seen that. So.
And then there's Truly, Madly, Deeply, which is a love story where he's a decent guy.
I don't watch very many films. You're showing me up now. I've seen him in Robin Hood. I've seen him in Die Hard, and I've seen him in Harry Potter. And he was a dubious guy in Harry Potter, and he was definitely bad in the other two.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll stop embarrassing you from your lack of movie. But you have homework now. You have a lot of movies to watch.
I do. Right. Games I've played. Thursday night Saxus has been very, very busy recently. Work has absolutely gone ballistic for him. So that's been put on hold for a little while. Played in and ran a bit of OSE on Saturday. Played in the game run by Gene from Inksplat Records, and then I ran a little game afterwards, and thoroughly enjoyed both. So if people do like what's that, Halakar? Probably have with English accents for bad guys. There are so many good guys with the same accent. It's all about the nuance of the accent. If you have the right tone, then it doesn't matter. Anyway, we're running OSE every fortnight. We now have, I've broken it down into 2 separate slots so that I'll run the later one so work doesn't get in the way. And the earlier one, I'll either play in if I'm available or someone else will run it. But so far, Gingerbeard and Gene have run the earlier one, and there is one more slot potentially open. And they've been rotating whoever's available, which is good. I was planning on running some Call of Cthulhu tomorrow night, but there hasn't been many people on the take-up, possibly because it's a Thursday night game, Thursday night UK time, and that corresponds to about 2-3 o'clock for most people in America, which is most of the audience. So we'll have to see about that one. But the game is still open if anybody wants to join. Daniel, hello, Daniel. Hello, RW Bishop. Where was I? I played on Monday. We reconvened that Odyssey of the Dragonlord game that had an issue the week before, and all is good. I think the DM's taken a few things. I think he's taken a few things on board, and he's basically asked us if we have an issue, just go straight to him to talk to him about it straight away, which is fine. Which is good. That's good.
No.
AB, it's all in the Discord. I was planning to start it at 8 o'clock. There's only me and Gingerbeard at the moment. So, and I was hoping to get some character creation done before starting as well. So that's what it is at the moment. But register your interest. I don't know if I'll postpone tomorrow's and reschedule. We shall see. We shall see. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. AB, we might just be making characters tomorrow now, so it might just be that, and then we'll work out some more. But because it's a scenario that will take at least 5 sessions to complete, that's the fastest I've ever completed it. There was one group who were 5 or 6 sessions in, and they're only 2/3 of the way through. It's a big, meaty scenario, so it's a bit of a commitment, but we can talk about it tomorrow. So if you're online about 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I'll be in there. I'll be in Discord most of tomorrow night anyway. But thanks, Daniel. Much appreciated. Anyway, where was we? Initiative. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Initiative. I just want to... I'm hoping not everybody has seen this. You don't mind, do you, Mage?
Oh, by all means. I'll take free advertising for my channel.
Yeah. I'm hoping my computer plays it properly. But I just want to show you a little short that my esteemed colleague put out the other day. So let me know if there's any problems with this, but this is only a minute long, but I think it perfectly explains AD&D Initiative, but there was also a point to it as to how convoluted AD&D Initiative is. Because if you can follow all of this at the pace that Mage explains it, you're a better man than me.
Nope, no audio.
Did you say you got no audio?
I wasn't getting any audio.
Was nobody getting any audio there? Was anybody getting audio? No sound. Oh, anybody know how to do sound in this?
I have yet to explore StreamYards and figure out the minutia.
Damn and blast. Because it is set to share. I could hear the audio, you see. The audio was nice and bright in my ear. But if nobody can hear the audio, then that's not going to work, is it? What a pain in the backside. Anybody here knows how to sort out streaming audio? Because I don't. Let me check settings. Audio. No. Can't see anything in there. Is the mic on? Well, there's no mic for it. It is, and I don't see an audio setting in there. Oh well.
Oh!
Maybe I can't show that. Or is there a way of doing subtitles on it? And we can just watch the subtitles as they appear.
Well, I didn't enter them in, so it's whatever YouTube picks them up as, and they might misread them.
Okay. I'm going to try that again. This may have to come through silently, but let's try it again. Just refreshing the screen. I've set it to subtitles. These should rattle through very, very quickly because Mage talks 10 to the dozen in this. There we go. Let's try again, shall we?
There should be a share audio tab. Yeah, it says here, note to share audio from your screen, you must check the share audio box.
I couldn't hear you then, Sean, because all I could hear was the audio.
There's apparently a check, a share audio box that has to be checked. It's under the share screen menu there. Share screen with menu, Chrome tab. Sorry, I just did a quick Google search.
Oh, right, okay. I don't see that option. I have. No, I don't. I don't have a share audio option in the share screen bit.
And now all of the viewers know the truth. We're a bunch of bumbling boobs when it comes to computers.
Oh, absolutely. Look, we're old, aren't we? Right, I'm going to stop the screen. I'm going to try presenting again. Now, I've clicked on share screen. Okay. Share screen. There's nothing there at all about audio. Nothing.
When he shares the screen, he has to share the Google tab.
Yep, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to. That doesn't work in mine. I have to share a separate screen, separate window. So I've moved it across to a separate window. Maybe Sean, are you able to share it, Sean?
Give me a sec. I'll try.
That could be a way of doing it.
All of this for one quick 1 minute video. Okay, let's see.
It is for a 1 minute video, but the idea was to start off our discussion with it. And we are just wasting time until Elfbait arrives, really, aren't we?
There we go. Hold on. Okay, so let me see if I can do this. Share screen.
Could it be because I'm working in Firefox?
I'm using Firefox myself, so.
Right, okay. I've never tried sharing videos before. I'm a sharing video virgin, clearly. Right. I see your screen appearing. If I remove mine and I bring yours in.
Okay.
Start it. I don't hear a thing of yours now.
Yeah, same problem.
Yeah.
Same problem. All right, well, I'll stop that. I'll have to play with StreamYards myself so I can actually make it work, not look like a total tool.
All right. Okay. Anyway, Mage made a 1 minute short explaining AD&D initiative. Throughout, he spoke very, very quickly. And I think the general idea was that yes, there is a logic to AD&D initiative, but if you can remember all of it and use it smoothly at the table, it's difficult. It's quite difficult to do because there's so many little things to remember. Am I wrong with that?
It's actually easier to remember than you understand. I mean, when you dump all of the exceptions in a 60-second cram, then yeah, it's like what is this? But everything is sort of sequential. There's an order of operations. That's what makes AD&D interesting is all the exceptions to initiative, so that you can strategize.
It was all things like you roll 1d6, and if you roll the highest, you go first. Unless you're casting a spell, unless you're doing missile fire, unless you have multiple attacks, and dexterity doesn't come into it, unless you're using missile fire, and so on and so on and so on.
And then you roll a tie, and okay, now we got to do this and this and that and this. Yeah. But in practice, when you see it at the table, and the way just combat just turns into a chaotic mess, chaotic in the good way, because combat should be chaos. Combat is messy. Combat isn't orderly. Okay, I'm going to go over here now and attack. Your turn. I'm going to go over here now and attack. Okay, next person.
Quite.
And that's where AD&D combat shines, is that it really turns the battlefield into a nightmare, and it makes players want to think more carefully about what they fight and when.
Now, I think some of that comes from the nature of group initiative, because the whole idea of group initiative is you can all plan together before initiative is rolled, but if you then go and lose initiative as a group, it all falls apart. It has the potential to all fall apart. Am I wrong?
It can, but sometimes you can take advantage of a lost initiative too.
Of course you can. So, just as long as you don't attack a gazebo, those gazebos are nasty. I actually mentioned fighting gazebos at our game on Monday, and everyone looked at me blankly, so they clearly never heard it. But anyway, so first edition initiative had a logical structure to it, but there were a lot of exceptions. And to be honest, I think the way you've perceived it all in there, I've seen a lot of people argue differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in print now for 44 years, and yet on AD&D forums, people still argue as to what the correct way of dealing with it is.
They argue like madmen.
They do, and a lot of it is because the wording and the wording that Gygax uses is a little. It's typical Gygaxian rules. I've said a lot of time in my videos, Gygax is brilliant at writing adventures because he's to the point. But when he writes rules, he's not at all.
It's funny because with AD&D, a lot of the rules are fairly consistent. They're just spread out in different places of the book. And, you find one rule says something in one area and then it's seemingly contradicted. But then when you put them together, it's, oh, no, they do work together. They just seem like a contradiction.
Yeah. Different ways of explaining things.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. That's like the biggest sin of first edition is the presentation. But when this is when I first started revisiting first edition, and I was trying to parse the rules, I almost tossed them out and just went with the player's option, Combat and Tactics from Second Ed, because that's a really nice, clear combat book. But I wanted to parse First Ed. And I was finding all these little things that went together. And then it's like, okay, I got to make a note, page reference here, page reference there. Okay, so, and, for example, the Tide Initiative idea. And I get arguments about this, that because I play it and I interpret it, and I think this is accurate, is that if you're using weapon speeds and you have Tide Initiative, if my weapon is twice as fast as yours, I get a bonus attack. Now, I've heard it said and interpreted that, no, it's not a bonus attack. You only get an extra attack if you have an extra attack. So you have to have the two attacks. It just, the Tide Initiative allows you to go first with both of them. But that doesn't make sense to me because the rule says that only happens when speed factor is a determinant of who goes first. In which case, if you had that extra attack, the speed factor is the determinant. The fact that you have the extra attack means you go first, bar none. Right?
Yeah. It would have helped if he'd have done all this in the form of just clear bullet points in the rule book. But instead we got sort of like Gygaxian prose, which is one of the things we love his rule books for at times, but also at times. Yeah. I mean, I'll still say to this day, and I will defend it to my dying breath, that the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide is the greatest RPG book ever written. Once you can just open it up and it's just inspiring, but it's horribly organized. There's no doubt. anyone who argues differently is wrong.
No, it's,
But
it's poorly organized.
yeah.
You're a liar if you think otherwise, or if you say otherwise. But
Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
it is an interesting read for sure. It's like finding the wizard's secret notebook. It's like, oh, hello.
Yeah. Yes, our hosts have lost initiative to StreamYard. Yes, we have. We don't know how to put sounds in StreamYard. We're both crap. We're old.
I just haven't played
Even
around with
we're
it.
as old as Slan. So,
when it comes to new technologies, it's a trial by error situation. Like learning to edit videos, I had no idea where to begin when I started making videos, and then it's like, all right, it's just like, all right, I got to teach myself, and many rounds of frustration and a lot of choice profanity later, it's like, oh, I'm starting to figure it out.
I mean, my initial video creation was just the most basic. I just used the Windows video recorder, found some way of slapping on pictures, and did it like that. That was it. I didn't even have a webcam at that point.
Somewhere Saxius is going, get back on topic.
Yes. No, his head is buried in spreadsheets at the moment because he's working.
Oh, he's got.
And if he's not working, he's a bad boy because he should be working. Right. Anyway, so what I did with AD&D is I basically threw out AD&D initiative and surprise, to be honest, and I used BECME initiative.
Mm-hmm. It's clean. It is 100% clean.
Yeah.
But it does come from the same DNA. You roll your d6. Surprise is the same, 1 or 2 on a d6 surprise.
Yep.
You roll d6. The difference is it's like, oh wait, you win. There's no there's one exception, and that's two-handed weapons will always lose, unless they're up against another two-handed weapon, in which case you use initiative as the determinant. But yeah, it's the same DNA. It's very easy.
But say half the time when I was running BECME, I didn't even use that order of morale, movement, missile, spell, melee. I would just roll
just freeform it. Yeah,
freeform it. If you win, off you go. Do it in whatever order you want to do it.
I do try to keep to the order of operations, but sometimes I either forget or say, oh no, just do it this way. It doesn't matter situationally. But I do like the order of operations, especially when tactics come into play and they're important, simply because you'll get movement is always top, right? And if a character is casting a spell and you need people out of the way, they have to be able to move to get out of the way. Fireball, for instance, a guy's going to fireball the room. It's like, okay, everybody clear out. So it's important that movement go first.
Yes. Now, that's not the same with every game. I'm going to come to a few other games in a bit. But I think that whole idea of just group initiative, and one reason I want to also discuss this in more detail later as well. One of the reasons I like group initiative is I like the players getting together before they roll initiative and discussing what they do. And having the players work together to come up with a plan for the round. If you go there and you do that, and I'll nip in there and I'll fire at that. And okay, and if I cover you there, and they get this idea in their head, and everybody's contributing. It's a way of everyone in the group being involved. And then when you actually roll initiative, you go through your actions very, very quickly as a result, because it's all already in your head. You're working as a team in that order that you've got worked out.
How do you feel about declarations and making players choose their action, declare their action?
I like OSE's way of doing it.
Specific declarations, but otherwise freeform.
Yes. You only declare if you're basically running away or casting a spell. Everything else is freeform. Right.
When I play OSE, I do use the OSE method, but ultimately I prefer declarations. It just makes it faster and cleaner when you're in the round. It's like, okay, you said you're doing this. You want to change your mind. That's it. You've cost yourself the round potentially. If somebody changes their mind, they want to run, then okay, fine. But there's no, I declare missile fire, and then, oh crap, I'd rather cast a spell. It's like, sorry, you can't just switch. But And it's especially for AD&D, it's definitely necessary in AD&D because there's so much going on that you need to know what players have committed to.
Yeah. And Kabuki Kid, I've never used the seating order around the table one, apart from for running Paranoia. That's how I did it when running Paranoia. But
I'm not a fan. Sorry, go on.
But so I'll come to Paranoia in a bit. Because I've got a big list of games I want to run through. You're saying you're not a fan of that?
I'm not a fan of the seating order arrangement, mainly because that's it takes away from the mechanics, takes away from the game idea. It's certainly smooth, and incidentally, I might go around the table clockwise or whatever, but you never know what's going to happen in a round. Once that round starts, chaos happens, and you can't necessarily say, okay, well, we have to do it in this order. We have to go around the table because that's what we've agreed to, when it makes more sense that, say, some person at the 1 o'clock position, they need to go first. Right. So let the dice decide. So it diminishes the game slightly. I get why people do it. It's efficient and they want to keep that flow, but you do lose something from the game aspect. So yeah, not a fan.
So I mean, for most situations, Beckme's very very simple. There's almost nothing that modifies initiative in Beckme. Almost nothing. You roll your d6, and unless you've got a specifically slow weapon, you go in that structured order, and one side goes, then the other side goes. Very, very simple. Very, very simple. As we've already said, AD&D isn't quite like that. Have you played Osric's variant?
I play AD&D. I have the Osric book, but I haven't looked at Osric's variant. No.
Osric's variant, basically, it's very, very, very similar to AD&D, but it actually specifies it neatly in the description in the book, in that both sides roll a d6, and the number you roll is the segment that the opposition begin their
actions. Yes, that's core AD&D as well. That's in there.
Yeah, it's just a better way of describing it. It's a better way of describing it than AD&D managed.
My variant, the way I do it, and this isn't technically by the book, it's just from my interpretation, is similar to that. The reason I don't use that is I don't like the specific segments. I like keeping it abstract. You've got a 1-minute combat round, so timing should be variable. So when timing is a factor, I just find the difference between the two initiative dice, but I don't say, okay, well, this is going to happen exactly on segment 1. If you win you roll a 6 and I roll a 4, you've got a 2-segment lead on me, and I just use that and then anything else goes. So that's good for casting or movement. Especially it's great for movement. We had a situation a couple of years ago. My niece was playing a character. She had a Kenzai, which in AD&D they get a +1 to 2 initiative flat. So we roll a group initiative and she gets to add 1 to what the group rolls. They were fighting a dragon, and we had all the pieces, all the minis on the board, and she was like, I want to charge the dragon with my key strike. And so we rolled initiative. The dragon was going to breathe, and then she was going to charge. And we rolled initiative, and the dragon beat the group by 1, but her +1 made it simultaneous. So she got 1 segment of movement. So we had to figure out exactly what that was, and it put her just outside of striking range when the dragon breathed. So I love the segment system for timing. I just don't specify. I don't use the it happens on this exact moment. I just create a general abstraction, subtract the loser from the winner, and that's the difference in segments.
And then, you calculate the movement as a percentage of the round.
Well, in AD&D, you're supposed to already find your per segment movement because it's 10 segments in a round. So you divide by 10. What I find the easiest thing to do is you're supposed to use a ground scale of 3.3 feet. So 3 by 3 squares is a 10-foot area. So if you simply divide your movement rate by 4, you find your per segment movement in squares. So that makes the grid very easy to manage.
I never use grids, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Never.
I love grid play. I want the specific visual of where people are and what they're going. It can be, I mean, you can use theater of mind combat for small things where it doesn't matter, but when there's a mass combat, and there's a lot of figures, you want things laid out so that everybody can use their abilities. And this is where I find thieves lose something if you don't have the grid laid out, because when the thief says, I want to go hide somewhere, it's like, okay, where are you going to hide? Whereas if you have the grid laid out, they have the visuals where they can go and move and stay put for a round before they jump out for their sneak attack.
I think we've discussed this general topic before. I mean, my approach with thieves is, if a thief wins surprise, they get a backstab. Then I play it by ear in terms of the combat. If it's a fairly sort of scattered melee, lots of people fighting, I'll give the thief a chance to move silently or hide, spend a round doing it, as long as there's somewhere in the room to dart behind or whatever. And then the following round, I'll say, okay, you've got a backstab.
And the key to that is if you've given them the description, enough description that they know there's somewhere to hide. And that's one of the reasons I have the grid down. So there's no fudging it. It's like, here it is. Players play within this scenario.
I'm the sort of DM who will basically say, most of the time will say, yeah, there'll be some rubble, there'll be some furniture, there'll be some boxes, something like that. If in doubt, I try to give the thief their chance to do their thing. That's my because thieves need that chance to do their thing.
Oh, absolutely. And there's other aspects too, things like spell casting. A lot of players will hate me, but the interpretation of the fireball, it shoots straight up from the caster. And if combat is chaotic, you never know who's going to be in front of the caster at any given time.
That's true.
And so if they've chosen to fire, and I've had players, they look at the situation of, crap, I can't shoot fireball, so they shoot it straight up into the air because they're going to nuke everybody because an enemy has gotten too close and they'll hit themselves. So things like that are important to be able to visualize, and you're not going to do that theater of the mind. You'll just usually assume, okay, you cast your fireball, it goes this place, and all the enemies take this much damage.
With that, I rely on my players to sort of trust me to come up with a ruling.
Well, yeah, you have to in theater of the mind. You'll have to do that, because if you have the blowback hit the players, it's like, well, you didn't tell us we were that close, or that's no fair. How come the guy jumped in front? Right? Well, it's a kamikaze kobold. He expected you to fireball, so he took one for the team. And then players will cry foul unless that kobold was on the board and they saw him moving and they're like, oh crap, kill that kobold.
Kill it. Yeah. I mean, I can see that. AB, I've never played Traveller. I'm not a sci-fi person, but if there's no surprise, everybody lets loose regardless. So it's just like, if there's no surprise, it's just everybody gets an attack. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah. Right. So
second edition initiative.
Oh, yes.
Oh, did you have more to say about first edition?
No, let's go to second edition. Second edition made it a D10. And roll lowest goes first.
Roll lowest, add your speed factor or casting time.
Well, that was an optional rule, but if you're going to do this system, then you've got to really do that.
I agree, and I hated it. It was so slow.
When I first read it, and I first really wanted to shift my group, give my group a go at running second edition, pretty much by the book. I liked the idea, but when it came to actually running it, trying to remember all those little pluses and minuses, it really, it lost some of the teamwork, in my opinion, as well.
Individual initiative definitely does that. It's the same in fifth, because fifth ed is essentially the same idea, only you're rolling a d20. And I mean, when I run fifth ed, I run fifth ed online, so it's a whole different thing. But when the occasional time I run it in person, I have to create an initiative board. I create a tracker and then I just have everybody put their token on the tracker. I would do the same in seconds. Like, all right, I'm creating the board, roll your die, put it down. But of course, I was stupid as a kid and didn't think to do it back then. So it's like, okay, how are we doing this? Okay, I got to write it down. Okay, you got a 2-handed sword and you rolled a 10. Your initiative is 20. It's like, ugh. Yeah. Such a pain.
I mean, I've actually got the second edition page open in front of me. So for anyone in chat who isn't familiar with this, these are the standard modifiers. These are the ones you are meant to use, the core rules. Hasted, -2, slowed, +2, on higher ground, -1, set to receive a charge, -2, wading or slippery footing, +2, wading in deep water, +4, foreign environment, *, +6, hindered, tangled, climbing, held, +3, waiting, see page 112 in the player's handbook, +1. You're meant to remember all of those as you just the and then you've got the optional modifiers. Attacking with a weapon speed, breath weapon +1, casting a spell, casting time. Yeah, fairly logical. Creature size. Monsters attacking with natural weapons only. That means the DM should keep a record of individual weapon speeds for monsters if they're using weapons.
Pretty much. Now, well, you have a weapon chart with you, and same with those initiative modifiers will be on your DM screen, assuming you had one.
At the time, I was quite enjoying differentiating between different orcs and goblins, and with Morning Star.
Mm-hmm.
And some orcs with short swords. It meant they all went differently, which was a pain in the arse. Innate special ability, and then different modifiers for all the different types of magical item. And that whole thing is just one ball ache from start to finish.
It is. I hated core second initiative, but conversely, I loved the combat and tactics initiative system. That was really good.
I've not used it, so I don't know what it is.
So I'll give the rundown. It's almost an amalgamation of first and second. There's elements of both. So what you have is different phases. You have the very fast phase, the fast phase, the average phase, the slow phase, the very slow, and then the end of round phase. And your weapon speed or your casting time, your base movement, all of that would determine what your phase was. So right. A normal human with a movement of 12, using, say, a dagger or any weapon with a speed factor of 4 or less would go in the fast phase. Now, you either went on your core movement phase for your race, or you would go on your weapons phase, whichever is slower. And then you just go up the phases. Both sides, it's a group initiative, so both sides roll a d10. And if you roll a 1, your entire side gets to shift up a phase and go extra fast. If you roll a 10, your entire side shifts back a phase and go extra slow. But then you just work up the phases. So it's like, okay, very fast phase, who's going very fast? And there'd be nobody. Then, okay, fast phase, who's up? And then if two people from the opposite sides were in the same phase, so you and I fighting with knives, both fast, initiative would determine who's going first. So even though we're both in the fast phase, I would go, then you would go, or whatever. But so even if you lost initiative and I won, but I had you had a fast weapon, a dagger, say, versus a sword, you would still go first because you won the fast phase.
But because they break it down to phases, I mean that sounds pretty good. I mean, I didn't like a lot of what that sort of players options era brought into D&D, but that actually sounds usable. It sounds like
it's a fantastic system. I almost, when I went back and committed 100% to first ed, I almost just said, I'm porting this system in because I was familiar. I'd ran it for about 20 years and I was familiar with it. But I decided, no, I want to learn first ed. But there are other aspects to it too, and you can, based on your skills, manipulate the phases. So for instance, if you take two-handed weapon fighting style, and use a two-handed weapon, you can shift your weapon up a phase. So if I'm using a long sword, which is normally average, I can throw away my shield, use the sword two-handed, and shift up a phase and go faster. So you can use tactics to adjust that accordingly.
I like that. I like the sound of that. And I think, Kabuki Kid sounds like she's in exactly the same boat as me when it comes to initiative. Always went back to BX.
BX is fast, simple, and easy to learn. It's great, and totally suited to BX. BX is the great casual gamers system because you can bring anybody in. You don't need a lot of you don't have to read all the tomes of knowledge that have been published on D&D. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's fun. There's no thinking about it too hard. Just boom. The more complex systems are for if you want that nuance, you want that crunch. Not a lot of people do. I know people just want to get to the game. It's like, okay, I don't want to have to calculate where my initiative is. I just want to roll a die, and that's the indicator. I get that.
Yes. So quite right. So I didn't play much enough 3rd and 4th edition really to talk about it, but their systems are very similar to 5th, what I remember. In that you roll your individual individual initiative, you apply your dexterity modifier, and that's when you go. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't hear you correcting me.
I don't know 4th, but 3rd and 5th, I think they're identical systems. I don't think they changed anything.
No. So 5th edition is basically you roll a d20, you add your dexterity modifier,
and that's where you are. Yeah,
but you don't roll every round. I don't know.
No, once it's the same in 3rd, if I remember correctly, because I played 3rd for a bit. But yeah, that's it. Your initiative is set for the entire combat, which I guess easy. It's like you do that one roll and you're off to the race. Joel the lawyer just gave you a super chat.
Oh, Joe, hello. Just did a video on initiative for the 2nd edition game, how you're changing over. Send you a link if you want. Joe, if you want to drop in, you are more than welcome. More than welcome.
Send him a link.
I'm going to risk it for a biscuit and just drop it into chat. If I recognize your name, you're more than welcome to join in. Hello, Dungeon Minister, and thank you, Joe, for that super chat as well. Thank you ever so much.
So
nice
I've seen a couple of his videos. He's following his own second ed campaign. Kabuki, I've seen people do that too. The clothesline, the clothespins, and this ridiculous trackers, and it's like, wow. Like I said, I even did a video on it. I just create a board of numbers 1 to 30, and have the players. They have their own little initiative tracker, and they roll the die and put it down. It takes 10 seconds, really fast. If I have to do a lot of work to track initiative, ugh.
Yeah. But I want to come to the pros and cons of that style of fixing around at some point in this video, because at the moment I just want to run through the various systems that have been used. But for the first time on one of our streams, Joe the lawyer, welcome. If you'd like to simultaneously stream on your channel, you're more than welcome to do so.
Okay, I have no idea how to do that. That's a new feature on YouTube. I don't know how to do
brand
it.
New. There's a little tab on the upper right that said simultaneously stream or share to your channel.
Okay. All right. Cool, man. All right. Let's see if I can figure it out. But thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys. This is kind of cool.
No problem. Did you catch us from the start, or have you just joined in?
I just joined in. I had a work from home day, so I was actually, believe it or not, working from home. So, but I heard you talking about initiative. I'm like, oh, that's timely. I just did a video on that about my 2nd edition game. So I figured, let me hop in.
Kabuki Kid makes a very good point, though, Joe. You look a lot like Asmodeus. I don't know. Are you catfishing us here?
Well, I am the evil Asmodeus. Yeah, but I wish I had Asmodeus's wealth and power. I wouldn't have to work. It'd be kind of nice. I'm sure he has a busy day ahead of him, though.
Sean, you could always change your image to the hyphen if you wish.
Oh, if you want, okay.
And then I'll be the only good guy left on the stream. Hello, Gene. How you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just changed over my 2-week game, like you were saying. I appreciate you guys watching it too. My 2-week game, though, we had a simple initiative, and I thought that'd be nice and simple. Hence its name, right? D6 group initiative, and everybody goes. But what I noticed is that if you have like certain players who were more aggressive or more of the take charge and take command kind of guys, and some people who aren't.
They want the tricks.
They basically the people who aren't as aggressive kind of miss out on a lot of things. They don't get to jump in as quickly. And I didn't want it to be a competition between who could speak first or who can get out the word first. So I was saying, let me change it to sort of roll the dice and do it the old-fashioned way with the 2E system, which is, as you know, roll low, which is quite of a shock after all this roll high for everything, But it's different. I'm getting used to it, and I get the combat tracker on Roll20 again going, and it's all right. And we'll do it every round, but then it just, that's just a big pain in the ass. So now we're just doing once, just like the old 5e.
Well, right before you came on, we were just talking about the combat and tactics second ed system.
Okay.
I don't know if you tried that one, but when I ran my second ed campaign, I that's what I used. I loved that one. I thought it was magnificent.
What is the gist of it? How does it differ from the standard 2E?
You have a phase system. So both sides, it's side initiative. You roll D10. If your side rolls a 1, you go faster. If your side rolls a 10, you go slower. But then you go through your phases. So you have your very fast, your average, your slow, and your very slow phases. And your weapon speed or your casting time and your base speed for your race determines how fast you are. So a human is fast, so that's the default phase. But a human wielding a longsword is average. So you'd always go by your weapon speed or your human speed. And so longsword means you're going the average phase.
Okay.
So even if you win initiative and the guy's coming at you with a dagger, which is fast, he'll go first.
Okay.
Right. So you basically work your way up the phases. Like, okay, very fast. Is anybody very fast? Nope. Moving on to fast. Is anybody fast? And then whoever's in the fast phase will get their turn. Anybody in the slow phase, et cetera, and then until you rinse and repeat.
Okay. So every round you're calculating what you're using in terms of your weapon or your spell segment time, and then you figure out your range. That's interesting. That's a nice hybrid. I kind of like that, actually.
And there's enough nuance that you can shake things up. Like I said, so let's say I've got a magic sword. A +2 sword increases the speed factor of the weapon by a phase. So a +2 longsword is now a fast weapon.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So there's enough manipulation there. There are things you can do. There's a tactic you can do to guard. For instance, guard is when you say, I'm waiting for an enemy to come close to me. And when he does, you get your attack right then and there. So it bypasses speed factors. Even if you're using a two-handed sword, you're just holding there waiting for somebody to come in range. But once they're in range, then you have to honor the speed factor because a two-handed sword is a slow weapon, right?
How hard is it to calculate every round that you have when you change up things? Definitely the spells are going to change every round because of the segments and whatnot. But
it's not, because most of the time you're using a consistent weapon. It only
Okay.
changes when you switch things up.
Okay.
And even spells fall into the same category. So a casting time of 1 to 3 means fast. 4 to 6 means average, right? So they all use the same metric.
Okay. All right. That's pretty cool.
A fast spell.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fireball's a fast spell. Exactly.
Okay.
But you can still lose initiative. So like I was saying to John before you came on, if you have two characters, opposing characters in the same phase, so let's say you're casting fireball and I've got a dagger and I'm right there, like I'm sneaking up behind you, I'm that thief. The thief, if the thief wins initiative, he's still going to stab before the fireball goes off, right?
Okay.
But if you win initiative as the caster, you're going to get the spell out before the thief or whoever gets their attack, unless they've somehow been able to move up to the very fast phase.
Okay. I like it.
The phase system's pretty good. I used it for 20 years and I have a friend, one of my guys in my first ed game, he completely resents me switching over to first ed from second ed. He completely resents it because I introduced him to second ed and he was like, okay, this is the game system I always wanted. And I was like, well, great, enjoy. I'm now switching to first ed. He's like, damn you.
I remember reading something about somebody put it out in early OSR days, I don't know, 10 years ago. Somebody actually figured out every first edition AD&D thing that went into initiative. That guy Gary wrote You know, like you write a sentence here in one chapter and a sentence there in another chapter, and they compiled all this crap into like this
Addict.
massive.
Addict, yes, I've seen Addict, yes.
Was that who did it? Yeah, it was insane. It's just layout of like, what in the hell are they talking about? It contradicted itself all over the place. There is no system, you know. There was no system whatsoever.
He got some details wrong too in the Addict document, but it was good. It was pretty clean. It delineates it nicely, but
okay.
But yeah, I love First Ed Initiative. And this is what kicked off the stream today. Geek was trying to show a video I did the other day about, just sort of a joke video, but just explaining the exceptions in First Edition. But they make first. That's what makes First Edition fun. Is those exceptions? Is that extra nuance? Because it creates the chaos in the combat field, which I am a strong advocate for.
Unfortunately, we were a pair of absolute hopeless. Old duffers when it comes to technology, and we couldn't get the sound.
Share it.
So I was going to start the video off by showing the video that Mage made, which basically was a 1 minute YouTube short explaining AD&D Initiative in a tongue-in-cheek manner, saying you roll 1d6. And whoever rolls highest goes first. Apart from when this happens. Apart from when this happens. Apart from when this happens. Apart from when this happens.
Exactly. It's pretty much how it rolls, man. That's the other thing about age too. I mean, we're all getting older. I'm 52. I'll be 53 in a couple of weeks. You know, I remember doing the second edition system with all the bells and whistles for initiative of segments and casting times and all this other stuff. And it's like, you have kid brain, you could get away with that sort of thing. Now, especially since we played with some beer in us and we're puffing away on a couple of things like you are there, Geek. But I suspect it might be something different. I don't know. But
there's a little bit of nicotine, not a lot of nicotine.
A little bit of nicotine.
Nothing illicit.
Yeah, I like the illicit where it's kind of legal out here where I live. So a puff on this or an edible there and a drink on something. Next thing you know, anything complicated due to age, plus that doesn't really help the situation too much. We're trying to figure something out, you know.
Yeah, we've already been through like first edition and OSE, which is basically BECME, BX, and that's really simple. But even I don't stick to that all the time. I play it by ear. And we have another newcomer joining us.
Bear.
Hey there. Hello there. It's me, Bear, the Gen X GM. How y'all doing, guys?
What's up, buddy?
We speak at last.
Mage and I know each other. We're both knuckleheads. It's the way it works out. Joe and I have typed at each other in the past.
Yes,
on
we have.
Comments. You and I are meeting for the first time, sir. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
For a while now.
Yeah, this is
excellent.
Cool, man.
Thank you.
I'm just grabbing a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
No worries. No worries.
If a cat comes up and just ignore it, he just wants
to. We don't mind cats. Don't mind.
His cat's name is Beans.
Yes. Elfbait, when you sit out, all the new people come diving in. No, but you might hear my dog occasionally. No, you don't hear my dog apart from she jumps off the bed and she never barks at anything. But anyway, right. So we've covered first edition. We've covered BX BECME OSE. We've done second edition and the combat and tactics, and we've glossed over so far sort of third, fourth, fifth, because it's all very much the same. We haven't described the pros and cons of all these editions yet, but I want to come to initiative in some other games. Now, I don't know how much experience either Bear or Joe have with other games.
Look at Bear's shelf in the background there.
Yeah,
okay. So
a couple.
So okay, let's go with paranoia. Let's go with paranoia's initiative. We're going around the table in paranoia, right? The cleaning bot is out of control and hurtling towards you. Sean, what do you do?
I duck and let it hit Bear.
You got in just in time. Okay, so you duck. Joe, what do you do?
I will run for cover and see if I can throw something at it, trip it up or something.
Okay, yeah, then we roll something. And Bear, what do you do?
I love the computer because the computer has my best intentions at mind, so I'll just trust the computer to make sure
you win. You win. What I was going to do there, I was hoping one of you would go so I could bring in the paranoia rule of if you take more than 2 or 3 seconds to decide what you're going to do, your character stands there and does absolutely nothing.
I've done that in other games, other not just Paranoia, but I just said, I just start counting down, and I give them warning ahead of time that I might do this, and I'll just say 6, 5, 4, and I'll just once you get to 0, all right, next, Pete, what are you doing? That's just how it'll go.
My players know what this means. They know what this means. When my hand goes like this, they've got 5 until we go.
One of my players had I use that word very carefully, analysis paralysis, because he always had to get it right, and then I just started saying, okay, you lose your turn, just boom, and then really he kept realizing is that I'm not going to let him sit and deliberate, so he started just jumping in. Didn't care if he made a mistake, just make his actions.
Yeah, I mean that's one advantage of hurrying people up is you don't get that. Everyone going for the perfect maneuver or whatever, and it's speed. Yeah, of course, it speeds the game up, makes it more fun, just makes it more enjoyable, more laughs at the table.
Just doing you a mitzvah because I'm using Chrome, and I think I can share the audio from Chrome for this if you want to see Mage's little video about initiative.
Cool.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll work. We'll give it a try and see.
We'll add it to the stream.
Let's see if we get some audio. Let's see. Good luck.
Let's see if we get audio.
AD&D First Edition minions. Each side rolls 1d6. The higher value goes first. Unless a fighter has more attack routines than the enemy, in which case the fighter goes first. Unless someone is casting a spell, in which case even if they win the initiative, there's a chance they lose the initiative based on the casting time of the spell and the initiative rolled. Unless 2 casters are casting, in which case the winner starts casting their spell on the number indicated by the loser's initiative die, and vice versa. Unless your team loses initiative, but you declared missile fire and you have a dexterity modifier, which adds to your initiative, potentially giving you the win. Oh, and if you roll a tie, minions, if your weapon speed is equal to your opponent, or they have no weapon speed at all, you go at the same time. If your weapon speed is better, you go first. If your weapon speed is better by double, or 5 points in any case, you get a bonus attack and your normal attack first. If your weapon speed is 10 points better or more, you get a bonus attack and regular attack first, then an extra bonus attack after the slow opponent. If you tie against a caster, you compare weapon speed to see who goes first. If 2 casters tie, casting time is compared. If you use missile against a caster, you go at the same time.
Good God.
Yep. Thanks, Gary.
Good God.
I think that was written on Gary's cocaine days. You know what I mean? There's no other explanation for such a system to make sense in anybody's head.
But honestly, in practice, it seems like a lot. In practice, it works really well. You have to remember the exceptions, but they make combat so interesting and so fun when it all boils down at the table.
God.
Well,
excuse me.
It's really look. I'm going to be honest. Like I'm the square peg with the round holes here. I don't hate the initiative system in 5e because it allows for a really fast, dynamic combat system that feels very cinematic. The action economy that is based around it works very well for reactions and bonus actions. And as a DM, I really enjoy getting arsed off with my one player who's mastered the system top to bottom. So when it's his turn, it's like, and then what do you do? Okay, and then what are you going to do? All right, then what's your move after that? Because he always has 5 things to do in a round because he's mastered the system. And I don't mind it.
But if he knows it, he'll get through it fast. What I hate is when people sit there and they're like, okay, can I do this or can I do that? No, just make a choice and go.
Yeah. That's what I want to come to when we start discussing the pros and cons of all of the systems. I want to address my view on 5th edition.
Absolutely. I love that.
Even though I do dump on 5th edition quite a lot nowadays, I've run 3 fairly long campaigns in 5th edition and I've played in quite a few. So I've sampled it and I've been spat out the other end. That's the best way to describe it.
Spat out or shat out? Yeah.
You've been weighed, measured, and drawn. Is that it?
My basic idea is I tried to fix it, and I tried to fix it, and I tried to fix it, and eventually I got to the point where I was wrestling with it so much that I just thought, stop this.
Yeah.
For the game that I want to run, that's this thing. I'm not a fan of the type of game that 5th edition produces with constant heroics, basically.
I feel it. Yeah.
So. Have any other game systems? I've been playing Shadow of the Demon Lord a bit recently. And does anyone know the initiative system in that?
No.
Right. You say what you're going to do. The DM decides whether it's a long action or a short action. A short action is I attack. I hide. A long action is something like I run up to the horse and try to get on the horse and veer it away from combat, or I charge and I leap at the opponent. Something that just takes a bit longer. You then resolve the actions in the order of the players go with short actions, the enemies go with short actions, the players go with long actions, the enemies go with long actions. So the players always go first, but long actions take longer. And that's it. That is it. And I really, really like it. It's so fast. It's so smooth, and it's also very cinematic.
Yeah, I can see
that.
that.
In the way it runs. But that's just it suits a game like Shadow of the Demon Lord, I think, in that sense. Right.
You know, the zoning of that, it reminds me of that. What's it? Professor Dungeon Master does that thing about range zones, right? Long, short, and in your face, or whatever it is. This initiative reminds me of that in a lot of different ways. You know, it's a simple way to look at it in a couple different categories, and then you're good to go. You know, I like that. I like that.
It's it's interesting enough. The whole way Professor Dungeon Master does his thing with the ranges and all that fun stuff. If you ever get a chance to pick up one of my favorite games ever and just find a PDF of it called Marvel Superheroes Adventure Gamer Saga, it's the card-based resolution one.
Okay.
They have a similar thing for ranges as well, which is there's melee, we're up close, there's shooting, there's visual, and there's beyond visual. And that's all you need to know. Like, that's just it. You don't have to worry about how many squares or hexes or feet or anything like that. It's just a very
13th Age did the same sort of thing. And 13th Age, which was pretty much what 4th edition should have been as a role-playing game.
I agree. Well, Star Wars Saga Edition, same story, right?
I don't play sci-fi, so I don't know.
No, but that game was the prototype for what was supposed to be 4E. And then they did that, and then they went off with what they did for 4E, which, again, I don't hate, but I understand why people didn't like it. But apparently the Star Wars Saga was like, everyone was like, if this is the next D&D, this is going to be great. Never happened. 13th Age picked up the ball and ran with it, from what I've been led to believe.
So the nearest I get to sci-fi is either Paranoia, which is just one long joke, or Call of Cthulhu, which you could argue is a horror game with little bits of sci-fi around the edges.
Yeah, you could do that argument.
When it comes to really futuristic stuff, I'm sort of, yeah. But anyway, speaking of Call of Cthulhu, are you all versed in Call of Cthulhu?
I've played it once years ago, and I don't remember too much except that it creeped me out a little bit. So kudos to that DM.
Yeah, did it right apparently.
It is my favorite game. I will admit that now. It is.
I'm halfway through that 3-hour live stream you guys did about Call of Cthulhu. It's not as bad as you think, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm gonna watch it on the way to work tomorrow. Listen to it. The other half of it. It's pretty good, man.
Good stuff. That was on Elfbait's channel, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But say in Call of Cthulhu, you basically go in dexterity order. There are a couple of exceptions, but you just go in order of your character's dexterity or agility, or whatever. And it's as simple as that. And it works out to be quite cinematic. Certainly, the way I try and run it, I allow quite a lot of leeway in what they can do in a round, because a round length in Call of Cthulhu isn't fixed. But there's no randomness, though, which I think Initiative does benefit from a bit of randomness.
I agree.
Not really in Call of Cthulhu.
The thing I really liked about the initiative system, the simple initiative system where you roll every round, or even if you want to roll for each person, rolling it every round is nice, because sometimes that changes the entire dynamic.
Yes.
You know, if you know you're going to come up 6th every single time, it changes what you think about what you do. But if you don't know that, you know, you went last this time, but you may get another shot to go first next time, then you could just drop the fireball on their ass or something cool and dramatic, right? I like that.
Sure.
But it makes it more difficult to do unless the group is fluid and rolls with that really fast on the individual, re-rolling individual every single time, you know?
Plus, the game system has to match it as well, which is a problem. Like, for example, in 5e, because the way things end on people's turns, on their next turn, this effect ends, or on the next turn, this goes off. You can have stuff where spells that are supposed to lock someone down for a round don't, because the guy's first up in the next round, so it automatically ends and off he goes.
Yes.
Or they're prohibitively abusive because, you know, back-to-back initiatives come up where I was the last to go in that round. Now I'm first to go in this round. So that thing I did last round immediately benefits me, and now I'm going to abuse the table with it. So I agree with what you're saying. I love changing dynamic like when I run Marvel, phase rip. It's every round we're rolling, every round, because it's a superhero fight, and who knows what's going to happen. But if the game system doesn't back it up, now you're creating a problem for yourself and a headache.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, if you're rolling every round, the initiative system has to be simple. The combat mechanics have to be relatively quick, because, as we mentioned in our second edition, when we were talking about second edition earlier, if you're playing with all the optional modifiers, it can grind to a halt when you're rolling every round, and you've suddenly got to work out, well, I get +3 for that, and -1 for that, and +4 for that, or whatever. It can become cumbersome.
And yeah, there's two different ways to look at it. Like, look at the second edition. They have the simple basic initiative modifiers, and they got the optional modifiers, and that's where you get into the weeds. It's like, avoid that. It's in my house rules. Avoid the optional. We're going for the basic unless something comes up.
If you stick to the basic, yes, you do lose the nuance of weapon speeds and casting times, but it's easier to memorize that smaller table of modifiers.
Well, the key is coming up with a system to help facilitate it, to make it smooth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have to spend 5 minutes calculating initiative and doing it every round, you're going to really grind things to a halt. But if you've got a method that is like bam, 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 we're in, then it doesn't matter. Add all the modifiers, use all the nuance.
I haven't played 2E in a minute, so I forget, but if you're using weapon speed factors, all your weapons are predetermined as to what their weapon speed factor is, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Write it down on your character sheet beside the weapon. This is my initiative modifier. This is my so when you're picking the weapon, you roll, you look at the paper, add a number, and off we go. Because I remember when we played it, everyone was looking stuff up all the time.
Oh yeah. That's just player organization.
Yeah.
I mean, I did say earlier on the stream, I'm the sort of DM who likes, if for example, you meet come up against a horde of goblins or hobgoblins, whatever, so they're going to have different weapons.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly want, as a DM, to be checking the table and I like random things. Not everything's always completely planned out, so I might not have noted down every speed factor of every weapon of every goblin. So that can cause issues. But I don't want all my goblins to be coming in with short bows and short swords.
Right. I mean, the variety is the spice of life. But what Mage was talking about earlier, with that 2.5 edition thing from the Combat and Tactics, that sounds great.
It does. I got to check
it
it out.
Be more simplified, because I think there's a few too many stages in it. But I mean, that's just me. I'm more of an OSE kind of guy. I want to see things get even more simplified down in combat. But it's a great idea. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
We play OSE every fortnight on my Discord, so it's becoming one of my. I've only run it 3 or 4 sessions, but it's taken me back to my Beckme days. So
it's I never got to play BX in the day. I never got to play Beckme because when I started playing, everybody was AD&D. We were high school kids. It was advanced. It was obviously the better one because it said advanced on it, and I always wanted to play it. So OSE has given me a chance to go back and do something I didn't get to do in 1985, which makes me kind of happy now.
Yeah, I agree. I did Beckme for a little bit, only because the kids who told me how to play D&D 1984 in shop class, we were just saying, but you got to start with basic. I'm like, well, what's that? I want to do it, man. I got to start with the red basic box. I'm like, all right, so Christmas list, basic box comes,
But it says basic on it.
That's it, basic. Yeah, perfect. But that's it. I skipped it fast.
I think that's a common story. Yeah, everybody has that story where
advanced.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's like there was a stigma of playing basic. That's for kids. It's like I totally wish I had put off trying to start. I couldn't even grasp advanced as a dumb kid, and I wish I just mastered basic. I was also experimenting with other games too. Like I jumped into TMNT and I tried. I mean, Star Wars, the D6 Star Wars back in the 80s.
Oh yeah,
I only tried it a couple times. But I was like, I really wish I'd played that more often. That would have been epic. But yeah, and then AD&D Second Ed came out in '89. I was 16. And it's like all my friends, we jumped to that, and that was it for good.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the D&D short busser. We all want to play advanced.
Listen, I kind of was, because the first game I played ever as a role-playing game was this.
Oh, look at that!
And you want to talk about complex, bizarre rules and points and grids, and this game is insane. So when I got to D&D, I was like, this is nothing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then I started reading it, and I was like, Jesus, is this English? I mean,
I'll beat you on that. I never played that, so I can't promise that I'll beat you on that. But let me just say one word: MERPs.
oh yeah, God,
You just said the magic word for geek.
there it is.
Just great minds think alike. Because I've just pulled this book off my shelf, and the
Good old chart master.
the alternate weekends where I don't run OSE, I run a game of this.
Oh, good
Nice.
God!
Have you looked at Against the Dark Master?
I have heard about it, but for me, what I like about MERP is it's all the source books. It's all the flavor of the world.
Oh,
They're glorious. So I'm not overly interested in looking at a system which sort of mirrors it, but without the same degree of flavor. Okay, it might smooth it out and what have you, but I found that running MERP over Roll20 with a lot of the calculations predetermined, because the character sheets are excellent on there.
Oh, really?
Has made it run much more smoothly.
Interesting.
Can you do the critical tables as rollable tables in Roll20?
No, I just have printouts of them in front of me, but it does automatically.
So keeping the stream on track to honor Saxius, what's the MERP? What's the initiative system in MERP?
Aha! I have pre-prepared it and have it written down in front of me.
Oh my God!
Nice.
Okay. In MERP, every character has a moving maneuver modifier, which comes into play at some times during the round. Now, this moving maneuver modifier is dependent on what you're carrying, what you're wearing, and your character's weight, because. Mage, is that you making noise in the background?
Sounds like there's a drone attack.
Yeah, sorry. Let me go close my balcony door. They're doing some landscaping downstairs. I'll be right back.
Right, okay. But you pre-calculate your movement maneuver modifier beforehand, because it is based on what you're carrying, what you're wearing, what your abilities are in that particular type of armor, how big your character is, all that sort of stuff. So there is that crunch there. The round is done as follows: you declare what you do. Spells happen first, which is unusual. But most of the time, the player characters will not be letting off a spell. They'll be preparing a spell, because spells take longer to cast. And half the time, well, especially low-level characters, they will be spending 3 or 4 rounds preparing the spell to make sure it works. So they'll be out the way, getting their spell ready. Missiles happen second. Now, these are simultaneous. Spells go off simultaneously. Missiles then go off simultaneously. There's no modifier to when they go off. So if everyone's firing arrows, everyone fires arrows at the same time. Then you have moving maneuvers, which are any sort of climbing, hiding, jumping, that sort of thing. They are then worked out. Then you have melee. Now, melee is done in the order of your moving maneuver bonus. So if you're a quick character, you go first. If you're slow, wearing heavy armor, you go last. Then you have normal movement. And then you have static maneuvers. Picking a lock, trying to perceive something that's going on, reading something, trying to influence the people you're fighting, that sort of thing. Those are all static maneuvers. And that's the sequence for a round. But what makes it more complicated is if you cast a spell, you might be able to move 10 feet as well during the movement phase. If you fire a missile, you might be able to move 10 feet as well in the movement phase. Melee, you can move 10 feet in the movement phase, or you can charge. And if you charge, there's a modifier, and all these things start coming in, which overcomplicates it. So I tend to have my approach of throw all that out the window, and I just run it as quite a slapdash manner, to be honest. But it works. And Brian has already said in chat, there we are. I'm quite proud of this.
Look at that. Look at that.
Old Geek may be a MERP fan, because Brian plays in my MERP game. I just try and make it run as fast and smooth as possible. And with the help of the Roll20 character sheets, they help they simplify a lot of the calculations because MERP's calculations are notorious. It's all right well in 1d20 plus 4 minus 2. You can do that pretty quickly. However, in MERP, you roll percentile dice, and it might be plus 35, plus 20, minus 15, plus 10.
Plus the stuff that sticks with you, right? If I remember right, MERPs, and this is going back 30 odd years, but you had this issue where you did things, you got critical or hurt or something, and that had a constant permanent penalty on you that you always had to keep that in mind too, right? As you're doing other things.
Half hit points, it's minus 20 and that sort of thing as well, and so on and so on. And there are so many modifiers that having that roll 20 is an absolute godsend when it comes to running MERP.
Yeah. Well, MERPs prepared me for Pathfinder, right? So 3.5. So I can handle this shit. It's like boot camp for this stuff, you know?
Yes.
The
Yeah. I won't touch Pathfinder with a barge pole. Sorry.
I'm a big fan of Pathfinder 1E beginner box, but that's a me thing, and I won't get into why. MERP has it's a fantastic game, but the initiative is so notoriously complex, clearly. Like, and just listening to you describe it, really, like, you know it.
Yeah.
For someone reading it, it's just like, oh, and then you get into the weapon length and all that stuff, and it just becomes this whole thing. I recall at least one of the Rollmaster companions, they introduced alternate combat rules because people had just been like, guys, come on, this is insane. We need something better. So they wrote a whole separate combat system, but it never got ported to MERP. So MERP always stayed purely MERP, right? Against the Dark Master did that too. They just took the MERP system and said, here we go, baby. We're bringing the whole thing over. And they didn't bother to modernize it or streamline it. They kept it as is. For me, it's a lot. It's a lot, to be honest. I want to go fast, you know? And once you're comfortable within it, absolutely you're going to go fast. Clearly, you'd be able to run it like, and we'd be off to the races.
I have the help of Roll20 doing a lot of the calculations. So I've run it at the table. I've never come away from running a face-to-face MERP game at the table with real dice without a headache.
That makes sense.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of at the table, that changes a lot of the dynamic too, what you're talking about here. I think on every game, because if you're at the table, like at a con, and you're running 8 players or whatever, you're changing up whatever default initiative system you may use online or for your regular player game with 4 or 5 people. If you're playing with strangers or at a con or at a game store or pickup game, everything changes. Yeah. You got to do simple initiative or just go around the table. What are you doing? What are you doing? And the hell with
You've got to keep people involved. You've got to keep people going.
No matter what game system you do, everything changes, I think. Yeah.
I have to wonder.
Running online games, I run a lot of games in Discord now, and most of it is done through voice.
Really?
With OSE, the players are in Owlbear doing their own map and whatever, but I'm doing almost everything by voice, and you've got to keep things moving at a decent pace. Yeah, because there's no visuals other than the map that the players are messing about with. And I do give them a few pointers on the map from time to time, but almost all of it is just voice. So pacing is I think it's even more important when you're running audio. I mean, my players don't appear on video. Mage plays, and you just hear his voice in the background, and the other guys, it's just hear all their voices, and you've got to try and keep it moving.
Yeah.
So to go back to initiative, because you're talking about moving, there was, I don't know, I can't remember where I saw this, where it comes from. So if someone in the chat knows, please tell me what game this is from. But I adapted it for a while, and I thought it was a really good system. It's from a superhero game, but it can work in anything, which is basically the round starts, everybody rolls initiative, highest person goes first, and then they decide who goes next.
Ooh.
And then they decide who goes next. And then they decide who goes next. And they can, if the heroes win, they can keep the villains from going until the end of the round. But then the villains are going to give themselves initiative for the next round and start off so they'll get a 1-2 hit from the villains. So it makes it a little strategic.
I played that game. I played one session of it, and I can't
remember what game it is. Is it Marvel Heroic? Dragon's saying it's Marvel Heroic. Could be. I don't remember where I heard it, but I loved it when we tried it out, because it was really watching my players have to think strategically in initiative, which was a really cool idea.
That is kind of cool.
One thing I do want to quickly dive in. Bear, do you have a channel?
Yes, I do.
You have YouTube. You do.
Bear the NXTM. You'll find me.
Okay,
it's easy.
Okay.
I'm the only one on YouTube.
Because we have actually got a combination of a lot of our channels in at the moment.
Everybody's simul streaming.
we're all simultaneously streaming.
Yeah.
So I think now would be a great time, right in the middle of the stream, for all of you three to shill your channels. Get yourself some new followers and whatever,
Cool.
and come and join me and as well, and have a quick shill before we continue at the next bit.
You know, I'm going to do something but I'm going to do one more on that one, which is I'm going to go ahead and copy the link for your live channel here and put it in my chat. And guys, if you're watching on my channel, come to this link and watch here and join the conversation here. I'm going to end the shared stream on my channel right now. Come over to that link I just shared so we can all be talking in one place.
Okay.
That's cool. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah. I'll do the same thing. So let me. How the hell do you do that, dude?
Yeah, I'm going to try remove. Remove this destination from the broadcast. Yes, remove.
All right.
Okay, I think that worked. I think I'm done streaming on my channel here.
I disappeared from my little list at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
And we've suddenly lost 6 people in chat.
Oh, damn. Don't. God. So I'm gonna put I'll put the links, I guess, to my channel in the private one, and on StreamYard, and you can maybe copy that into the cast. That's the link to my channel. Then I'll do the same thing, guys. Whoever's watching on my channel right now, hop over to Ye Old Geek. All right, so he's gonna put my channel up there, and now I gotta put a link to his channel. All right, so it's just, you're testing my old brain here.
You're the same age as me. You're not that old.
Oh God! All right, so I'm gonna put a link into there for you guys.
You beat me there.
Yeah. Don't worry. You worry about running your show. I can handle this. This is my happy place.
Oh, this is the show. We just sort of wing it.
Yeah, I tend to wing these,
especially with Saxius isn't here. He's our whip cracker.
Yeah, we have a regular contributor, Saxius. He's Danish. He's into his spreadsheets, and he keeps us he keeps us organized.
My ancestry is 1/3 Danish. I can appreciate. Trust me. I'm a Celtic Viking. I'm good. But Yield, I'm going to have you on for a 4-color cafe on my channel sometime, just so you can see the chaos that is when I have like Mr. Welch on and stuff like that. And we just get all crazy. And we've had techs on a few times from Black Pants Legion, which is the BattleTech god of YouTube. And let me tell you, that just degenerates into massive. Your face is hurting by the time you've been like 20 minutes in the stream because we're just the crazy stuff people are saying. It's
good.
Hilarious.
Good. Have a bit of fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Mage, you need to be on. And Joe, this is your official invite to be on sometime too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I'm going to be bouncing in a little bit from here, not too long, not too soon, because I got to go tonight. I've got Len Pimental coming on tonight, and we're going to be talking about his new game, Black Star, which is a silver bestseller on drive-thru right now.
What time do you tend
8
to do
p.m.
your streams?
Eastern time will be on. So I don't know what that would be in the UK. That'll be like you're in the UK, right? So you're
1 a.m. for
me. Yeah, it's like 1 a.m. for you, brother. But if I'm going to have you on, we'll do one on a Saturday afternoon or something, so I can get you in early.
All right. Anyway, after that little bit of channel shilling, because Joe the lawyer has a channel, Major's Musics has a channel, and Bear the Gen X GM has a channel. So channels are plenty.
Cross-pollinate, everyone. Cross-pollinate. Yes. It's springtime.
I'll tell you right now, I'll be honest with you guys. This is something that I've been trying to build for a while because there is, and I don't want to say elite, but there is a high-level YouTube community of streamers.
Yeah,
and they all back each other up and they all help each other out and all that. And I look at that and I go, there's enough of us who are right around the 1,000 mark, the 2,000 mark. We should all be working together, and we should all be helping each other out and sharing what we do. So Mage and I have been, he's been showing up on my chats and stuff like that. And I comment on his videos, and we've got, what's his name from the States? The guy who's got the print shop. Oh my God. He does all the 5e videos.
Loki's Lair?
No, Loki's in the UK.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. There's another guy. He's amazing. So we're just trying to get everything going. And this I learned from Mr. Welch, because Mr. Welch explained how Black Pants Legion had given him a boost. So he was happy to come work with me to give me a boost. And I'm like, you know what? We can all boost each other.
I agree. Eric Tankar, he has Tankar Stavern.
Eric's the
you know,
man.
I have every other couple of weeks, we have a thing on a Friday night with a bunch of us who we all play together, a bunch of gamers
Yep.
together, where we go back 10, 12 years from the OSR blogger days, and we just have a good time. And so we do this thing, you know, we have our little show there, and it's like Eric has started a newsletter that it's intermittent how he puts it out, but it's the latest, greatest links from all of us who are involved in this little Tankar's Tavern group. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think there's more room for all this. Like you're saying, we got to expand it outwards because, hey, we're not going to get into the, you know, super elite 5e groups, right? Those guys who do those things are never going to get the 100,000 mark, probably, because we're old people talking about D&D from the old days, right? But hey, we could get 5-10 grand. We could get more people. We could back each other up. I think that's a great idea.
Well, and it just it helps us in the hobby, right? I mean, this is the thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, I'm not part of the 5e community. I will never be part of the 5e community. I have no interest in the 5e community. There's some great guys doing some great videos, and I love to watch them. But I prefer this stuff where we can talk real. None of us have to worry about political agendas. None of us are worrying about if we say the wrong thing or we offend the wrong. We can just be real, which is what old school gaming was. It was being real. And having fun, and a bunch of assholes sitting around a table throwing dice at each other and eating chips and shouting cheap, that's cheap, you know, and all that kind of fun stuff.
Corrupt DM.
Exactly. Stonewaller. That's what my buddy used to always shout at our DM when make it hard on us. Be like, you're stonewalling, you know. But that was fun.
Yeah,
we can still do that here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
The funny thing is that when we used to talk about at the table when we're 15 years old, you know, you sit there, you talk about the girl you like, and now we're 50 plus years old. We're talking about our current ailments. This hurts and that hurts. It's like, shit, man. How far are we falling?
So listen, my best friend and I have been role playing together since I was 18. So 98, right? We met in college. And we go to the gym 3 times a week, and we hang out, and we're both old men now. And every bloody trip is just talking about the latest thing that's not working in our physicality. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're old men having an old time, and I love that.
A good time. Yeah, exactly.
Amen. To quote my wife, I'll do a lot of things for bonus XP. Nice one, Elf. I like that.
Right, let's get back onto topic.
Yes.
Anyway,
sorry.
Yes, we've done our channel, surely. If you do need to go, just let me know and whatever.
I'll let you know before I go. Yeah, I'll send you a little quick comment or something in the private chat.
Yep.
Okay. I want to talk about the pros and cons of these various methods, and I'm going to be maybe be a little bit of a maybe a bit of a devil's advocate on this one, because some of you have already said that you quite like the second edition style, the way it rolls around. I absolutely disagree. I find it very, very predictable. And I find the effect it has on the people at the table is they're sat there quite often just waiting, because they know it's going to be 10 or 15 minutes before they do something. And it almost encourages people to zone out of the game. And it makes it difficult. It makes it more difficult to keep the interest going in the game, because people will have their turn, and then they'll know that it's going to be 10 or 15 minutes before someone else goes again. Now, at lower levels, the turns cycle through quite quickly because people tend to have very few reactions, very few bonus actions. Their attack is usually one attack. It's usually one simple spell, very few ongoing effects. But as you get up to higher levels, you get people having to look up, is that concentration or is that concentration? Will it cancel the concentration spell I've already got? I've got 2 attacks. Do I get a bonus attack? What can I do with that bonus? Have I got a reaction that comes in? What are the modifiers? Does that give me advantage? And so on. And as you go up through the levels, it grinds. Even with players that are becoming more and more adept with their characters, there are so many more abilities. You start getting to that analysis paralysis. And the other thing is, because everybody takes their turn sequentially, the battlefield changes with every single turn, which causes people to stop and think. Even when you're trying to push it along, they've got to reassess the battlefield potentially after every single move. And that naturally slows things down
Mhm.
because they've got even with the 5 or 10 seconds, they've got to reassess where someone might have moved. They might have an idea planned in their head, but things will have moved. They've got to reassess it and they've got to keep doing that right up until it's their turn, because it can be changed by whoever moves directly before them.
Yeah.
And that keeps going, and there's no real way of alleviating that.
Yeah. And if you are spaced out for a minute too, you missed who moved, and you're like, wait, where's there? And then you're saying you're going to do something which doesn't make sense anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So the old Marvel Superheroes game had a very clunky mechanic for this, which was every round you rolled initiative, and then the first stage of the initiative was, as we all know from many games, declarations. And you all declared what you were going to do that round. Then you went from the order from highest to lowest. And by the time your turn came up, your declaration was now invalid, i.e., I was going to jump on the grenade, but my guy just knocked the grenade off the thing. So now, you had to make a change of action roll, which was an intuition or a fighting feat, and it was an agility feat. You had to make this agility feat to be able to change, but you still got a penalty on top of even if you succeeded, you'd still got to do a new action with a penalty, because essentially you were zigging when you should have zagged, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great on paper, fantastic on paper, bogs the game down to a crawl in practice, sadly.
Yes.
So what is
MERP's got the same. MERP's got the same sort of modifiers, and I tend to ignore them because I'm not interested in making it so fiddly, because I want it to move quickly. But MERP does have the same change of action modifiers.
Okay. So what is the solution to what you were proposing then? You're saying you're losing people for 15 minutes. The battlefield's changed. How do you wrangle that?
What I've done is I've stopped running 5th edition, and I now run OSE.
Take that, Watsy.
There you go, sorcerers of the shore.
I ran 5e for about 4.5 years, and I ran 3 different campaigns, all in the same kind of a setting world. It was all the same thing, but each group did different things. And after about a year, I ended the game store group and the library group because I did one part of a small fraction of a big combat when everybody got to around 7th level. And that's when we hit that they have way too many abilities. And that one little part took like 4 damn hours, and we barely got anywhere. And I'm like, I'm tapping out. I'm done with this. And then the one game I kept going was just me and my brother. It was a one-on-one with a couple characters, and then we had one other player come in. So we had 3 players, and there's never any healing. Essentially, it made it more brutal. He had a mage and a barbarian, and the other guy came in and he brought like a shaman or a play it by ear, whatever the game needed at the time. And so with minimal characters and with virtually no healing, I ended up after 4.5 years of the 5e campaign. They ended in like their low 20th level, and it worked. But I house ruled the living hell out of it, right? In order to make it work. I changed it so much that I'm like, at the end, I'm saying to myself, I house ruled this thing so much. And I realized at the time that I had house ruled it to make it more and more like 2nd edition. I'm like, I'm just going to run a 2nd edition campaign. Yeah. And that's when I started that. So I ended the 5e and started 2e.
I'm sort of in the same boat. Like, I run a 5e game specifically to test out house rules I wanted to try to create to give it an old school feel. I did a video on it, but so I've been playing this game for 1.5 years, testing out various systems. I've done the same. Yeah. I'm to the point where I look forward to my 5th ed game, but it did occur to me, it's like there's only so much you can do before you stop and say, why am I doing this? And I'll just play an older game. I'll play a game that's what I want to play.
So instead of playing 2e, I'll use this instead, which was a modernized 2e hack that is really good, but has a lot of the stuff that 2e had. It has a lot of the weapon stuff, the talent sort of system. It's a really good system. It's probably my 3rd favorite D&D hack of all of them.
What is it called?
It's called Myth and Magic. It's very hard to find because the guy who created it, not to speak ill of the assholes, basically stole a lot of money from people and never fulfilled on the Kickstarter for 90% of the backers.
Okay.
But you can sometimes find copies on the secondary market, or if you know where to look around my world, you can find some PDFs that somehow managed to just find themselves in the wild. I don't know how that
that's right.
happened, because fuck him,
Understood.
he ripped off gamers, and he deserves to burn in hell for that.
Yeah.
Especially as he made Kickstarters harder for the rest of us, because he's one of those cautionary Kickstarter tales. But
Okay.
Devil is Due, great game, fantastic
Interesting.
game.
Because I have For Golden Glory, which is a second edition retro
Mhm.
clone,
Yeah,
but it
I've heard
doesn't
a lot
make
of good
it
things about that.
simpler.
Yeah,
It
it's
does
more
make it
exact,
simpler.
though.
It's more exact. Exactly.
It's what Osric is to First Ed, basically.
Yes. Yes.
This is
yes.
a Neo clone. This is like what Heroes Against Darkness is to 4E. It's someone taking the really good ideas, taking
Mhm.
some other mechanics from 3E and stuff like that, and bringing it up and more modernizing the game. Plays
Okay.
very, very well. It's a lot of fun.
As we mentioned with 13th Age with 4th edition as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's worth checking out. There was something that you'd said, something that made me think of something that I wanted to say. I don't hate 5e. Let me say that. I don't hate 5e.
Yeah.
I
think
like it
there's
at
a-
low levels. At first, and
there's-
second,
at
and
low
third
levels, it's
level, I
fun.
like it.
There's
Yeah.
too much magic, way too much
Yes.
magic.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's too hard to kill players unless you really, really go out of your way to really boot stomp them.
Yeah.
And then it's not the ways you think it would be. Like, you throw a dragon at them and they handle it.
Yeah.
Yet you throw a Cyclops at them and he tanks the crap out of the entire group. It's the weirdest, the monsters
Mhm.
make no sense. It's unbalanced.
Shadows.
But
Mhm.
there's a really good
Yeah.
core system in 5e.
There is.
And I like the initiative system. Sorry to say, I really love the action economy initiative system, but I prefer more cinematic, balls to the wall style. Sorry, Jagan says, to speed up combat, give players 30 seconds, and if they don't make a decision, their characters are going full defense that turn. Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Still, though, 30 seconds is more than I'd like, because
Yeah.
back to my original point, the whole what I like about group initiative, and the main reason I like group initiative, is you have that little discussion phase beforehand,
Mhm.
where everybody in the table is discussing what they are all doing as a team that next round.
Yeah.
And yes, it might go wrong because they might lose initiative, but they've all contributed. They've all got in and got involved and discussed what they're going to do. So they all feel as though they're involved in the game. And then the actual resolution in say, Beck Me, whatever, is very quick. So there's very little sat around waiting for things to happen.
You still want to limit that discussion time, though, because realistically, they're in a fight. They don't have time to stop and huddle. So, but yeah, no, it definitely helps, especially if you're in a system that requires declarations. Right.
I was just going to ask that. Do you guys have declaration ahead of time? Because I don't do that anymore. I don't.
No,
bother
me
with it.
neither.
I stick by what OSE says, where you don't need to declare unless you're either running away or casting a spell.
Okay.
Everything else you can do at the time. But if you have to declare if you're going to cast a spell or you're running away.
I've added a couple of declarative actions to my OSE, like charge. If you're going to charge, you have to declare it, as opposed to just casually moving into combat. But for First Ed, I'm full declaration. You got to tell me what you're doing.
Interesting.
So when I run OSE, I ignore their initiative system. The order of combat, the order of battle. I ignore that because it's just tiresome for me. Okay, now the spellcasters go. Okay, now the ranged attack. Let's just go. Let's go. Go. Back and forth.
D6 simple initiative for old school centrals. Second edition, like I said, I moved it to a different way of doing it. Just everybody individual, and you roll once and you stay, and that's what I'm working with now. It may change up in the future, but the only thing I want them to declare is if they're going to hold their action, because then I want to hear the specific thing they're holding their action for.
Agreed.
Well, Fifth Ed does that well in that, I mean, that's one thing I love about Fifth Ed is it is player friendly and it is very simple to grasp because you have your reaction, which you can use in conjunction with your action to ready something. It's like, okay, I'm holding my shot. The moment he picks his head around the corner, I loose. And then you've set the terms and that's it. When it happens, it happens.
The if-then statement, right? Which I always have to remind my players about in my 5e game, and these guys know the system, but they're always like, I'm going to hold my action. I'm like, to do what?
You have to specify the condition.
You specify if then. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I allow that in whatever system I'm running, that sort of thing. Even if it's not specifically in the system, if you want to hold an action with a trigger, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable. It's just codified in Fifth Ed. Like it's there, it's here, as you can do it. In earlier editions, it's more intuitive. Well, of course you can do it. It makes sense. I'm going to hold my bow and wait till he peeks his head around the corner.
Ye Old Geek just gave me something for Bastard Sword. Trigger action. I love this term. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Because I don't like ready to action. I don't like hold action. I just don't like the sound of them. But a triggered action, really nice. I like that. Thank you. I like that.
I've heard some people call it Overwatch, but Overwatch is so vague that I'm on Overwatch. Well, what does that mean? What do you're watching for what?
What that means is somebody was trying to find a cool buzzword for their game.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And what is okay? So what happens when you see what you're watching for? We still need the if then. We still need that.
Exactly.
Look, players are going to play, DMs are going to DM, and systems are going to system, and we have to accept all of these realities. And the secret is always the same: find the way that works best for you and your table, where you're having the most fun possible, the maximum amount of good times, and the most crazy chaos you can have when the dice hit the table, and go with it. There is no wrong, bad fun. None.
Yeah, you're only doing it wrong if people aren't enjoying themselves. It is as simple as that.
Well said. Yeah, true.
I mean, that is the whole nature of the hobby. We do it to have fun, and that includes players, DMs, everybody.
Yeah.
What DMs have? No, they're not allowed to have fun. That's the modern day creed.
Mage,
DMs are here to provide a service.
We're here to facilitate. We're not DMs. We're facilitators.
So
I've said it many times in our chats that I believe DM fun to be more important than any other individual at the table.
Because if the DM quits, the game's done.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've done that before. I said this to my players. I was like, it sucks. The game sucks. Oh, we're having a good time. I said, but I'm not. That's the problem. I can't keep doing this. And I think it was for Pathfinder. We just finished a game and it was driving home at midnight. And I texted the group while driving. And I was like, I'm done. I can't anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And that's how we ended the campaign. You know,
I run the game I want to run. So, I mean, and my players have their choice whether or not it's for them. And then some come, some go. But ultimately, I have a core group that likes the way I do things and they come back.
Yeah,
I did the same thing Mage does, which is I no longer say, what do you guys want to play? I say, this is what I'm running. This is
what I'm running. Yeah.
You don't want to play? Okay, I'll find someone else.
Yep. I normally say, do you want me to do you want to have a game? Yep. And I say, well, these are your options. You've got this, this, or this. These are what I'll run.
Yeah. And I do it differently. I only run long campaigns. I don't do one shots. I don't do a quickie 5 or 10 thing. Like I'm going to start something and I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to try to run this for a few years. Who's in? And by the way, here's my 19 pages of house rules.
Yeah.
So that's how it begins. And so you eliminate a whole lot of shit from, once you throw that out there. I just note, hey, I don't care. There's some people who like that, some people who don't. And I know who in advance who probably amongst my group of friends is not going to play. Matt Jackson, looking at you. All right. Nick goes, I'm like a 4-year campaign. No, it ain't going to happen. Plus 19 pages of house rules. He likes index card RPG. It's not going to happen for him. Right. So, but at the same time, that's what I'm looking for. I like the world building. I don't like the storytelling thing that 5e DMs think they are. They're not authors, but I like the world building aspect of it all.
You can mix it though.
Yeah, I like the worlds.
Like I love doing plot point campaigns. Like it's the thing. I don't care if it's going to take 2 years or a year. You're in my game. Well, like Joe, here's my 19 pages of house rules. Oh, and here's my 30 pages on the setting.
Yes. Thank you, my brother. Yes.
And here's the timeline. And every now and then I'm going to do a hero point quiz, or in Marvel we used to call them karma quizzes, where I'm going to ask you random questions from the timeline, and if you can answer it, you get some bonuses points because it shows you paid attention.
That's awesome. I like that. XP for fucking quizzes. That's awesome, dude. I love it.
I mean, I there's a time and a place for short games and a time and a place for long games, and I like to mix them up, to be honest. And I have this long, almost probably 10-year long since I first played it, yearning to run a really long Call of Cthulhu campaign and really document the slow decline into insanity and
that's cool.
And what have you. But I did start a long Call of Cthulhu campaign, Horror on the Orient Express, big long pre-written campaign, and we got about a third of the way into it, and it was going absolutely wonderfully. And then COVID came along, and we never got that group properly back together because people's circumstances had changed. Babies had arrived, jobs had changed, all that sort of stuff. So that got put on hiatus, but I still have my books up there ready to crack out for when I can find people who are willing to commit to 2 years of Call of Cthulhu, of slow torture, of slow decline
slow
into
torture.
insanity, and dismemberment, and whatever else they're going to
I'm sorry,
alive.
I've had
Sorry,
jobs
what
like
was
that
that?
before.
One of your players hates me now, man.
Sorry, what?
One of your players hates me now because I gave you the idea for quizzes. Now he says I have to.
Oh,
study.
that's Dwayne. Yeah, that's Dwayne. That's my buddy. We're gonna do a one-on-one. I like to do a pre-campaign session or two with each player because I don't like. Here's my 7 pages of background. I have done all these things and I'm a superhero, and yet I have 0 XP. But I do like the idea of, all right, give me a concept, and then we're gonna run a couple sessions with you to sort of flesh out some of these ideas and concepts in a way that fits my ongoing campaign. From that, you'll get used to the character sheet, because that 2E roll 20 character sheet is from Satan himself, but it has all the bells and whistles in the worst possible way. But and he gives you a sense of who your guy is, and what he's all about, and he gives you some plot hooks for coming into the campaign with, right? So that's what I'm gonna do on Friday. But now he's done. Now he's pissed.
Sorry. Oh well. Sorry, not sorry.
And now Bear cackles maniacally.
Well, as a Canadian, I have to say sorry in a very passive-aggressive way.
Oh
So I have to go, oh, sorry, man. Sorry.
You're Canadian as well, Mike. I mean,
oh, yes, sir. Me and Major knuckleheads. That's what we are.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I mean, and I think Canadians outnumber Brits even on my Discord server at the moment. It seems half the players are Canadian.
What's with all the Aussies on YouTube now?
Yeah.
That's the one that blows my mind. There are so many Aussies and Kiwis on YouTube.
Well, they finally got the internet there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like seriously, they just got high speed last year or something.
They stopped the koalas from chewing through the lines, and they finally got internet.
Yeah, seriously. But there's a lot of Canadians in the D&D sphere on YouTube as well. There's an awful lot of us for some reason. Well, winters are cold. We got nothing else to do but sit inside.
And we're geeks, so we're not having sex. So that's just how it goes, right?
We're talking about
what is sex?
Yeah.
I no speak this language. Sorry, gentlemen. Je parle pas ton langue. Moi, je comprends pas. Malheureusement.
Damn, man. Oh, you're a French Canadian. No, that explains it.
I'm an English Canadian, but I live in French Canada, so I'm bilingual.
Gotcha.
And now I'm trying to learn Spanish, and let me tell you.
Really?
Anyway, yeah, I have a lot of Colombiana friends, and they're trying to teach me, so I'm picking it up slowly as I go.
He lives in French Canada. I live in real Canada. Yeah.
No, he lives in pretend New York.
Oh, okay. Was that Toronto or something?
Yeah.
I'll just sit back here and let you
wrap it out. Yeah, exactly.
Where are you at?
Okay.
Geek, where are you at anyway? I know you're in England somewhere. I don't know where though. Or do you not want to share?
Because my accent doesn't give me away, because I had an accent, but my other job is hosting quizzes. So nice. I ended up getting a bit of a DJ voice. Because it got rid of my accent. I'm from Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Right.
Because Alexi Zale. Alexi Zale did that whole bit on the young ones about the housing projects in Birmingham and the indifference of the thing causing people to go insane. And it's just this great rant he does, and it's just brilliant. So I've always had this, like, every time I hear Birmingham, I'm like, oh, Alexi Zale's rant, and it just makes me feel warm.
Jesus.
Anyway, does anyone have anything to add about initiative, or are we just going to ramble now? Is it
okay? Let's do it this way. Let's go around then. What's your favorite initiative system that you've encountered?
Go on, Mage.
I love my first ed. The reason being, before you guys came aboard, was because I love the nuance. I love the chaos that First E initiative brings to the table. But for games where my players aren't invested in that, I do like the OSE. I like the simplicity of that's either so you want it fast and dirty, or you want the nuance for the chaos. But I like 1E.
Okay.
I like simple initiative, but I wish I could get it to work with the 2E group I have better. So I ended up going to individual initiative rolled once, and we keep it like that for the round, for the whole combat rounds. So yeah.
I like D10. Basically, I like the Cyberpunk 2020 initiative system. D10 plus a stat, individual initiative. Let's go.
Okay.
I like group initiative, for me, the OSE version, BX/BECME version, it's just so fast, it's so smooth, and you have that enough random element to keep people guessing. It makes combat unpredictable.
Here's a question. So if we're off the initiative system, in similar vein to this, what is the favorite fantasy D&D-ish game that you love, but you're not playing for reasons? Oh, he's reaching for a book.
Okay.
What do we got here? Magic World. What is that?
So Magic World was put out by Chaosium. It's a BRP, basic role playing, so Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, you name it.
I saw that logo on there. And
it's Stormbringer, the 80s Stormbringer with all of the Elric pushed out of it.
Really?
So in the 80s, those of us who were playing sort of, BRP, but we didn't want to play RuneQuest because Glorantha wasn't to our flavor. Stormbringer was just the best iteration of basic role playing, period. So they released this, and like I said, it's basically all the Elric is pushed out, and it's just a generic sword and sorcery fantasy game. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic, it's wonderful, and I'm not playing it. So that's my answer.
Why not? Why aren't you playing it?
That's mine. The
One Ring. All right.
Oh wow, nice.
And it's quite simply, we've just got such a queue of games to play. It's got to wait. It's as simple as that. Yeah. But I love it. It's really, really simple. The system's really, really simple. The artwork in it is absolutely magnificent. And it's got so much love to the Tolkien theme that can't help but love it.
To answer your question, Joe, why I'm not playing it is because my campaign world's not ready yet.
Gotcha.
I'm still tinkering with it.
Oh, yeah. The tinkering continues.
For me, it's a setting. I always wanted to run a good, scary Ravenloft campaign for my D&D groups, but could never get myself to the level where I could DM it at a quality that I would want to play in, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Because I think, and it's the same with, I guess, Call of Cthulhu. Geek and I talked about this the other day, that something you would really want to get home is the horror. And, to convey that in a tabletop game would take such a level of skill. And I just don't think I am there for that genre.
Yeah. For me, it's what used to be called Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. Now with their second and their third edition, I think came out with, right? It's just called Hyperborea. And Jeff Talanian put it out, and it is AD&D second edition, essentially better rules fixed up without any Tolkien influences. It's all Robert E. Howard's Conan. It's Clark Ashton Smith stuff. It's Lovecraft, and it's everything cool thrown in. And basically, I don't play it because I can't get a group to get into it as much, and I would have to again change a little bit more than I would want to. And plus he ties the game system intricately into his world, and it would be a matter of separating the world elements, the setting elements, to just stripped out the components of the game, if that makes any sense.
Well, that's why they had that version that I just showed you guys. That's the one that doesn't have the setting attached to it, right? So it's just the core rules.
Yeah.
Are you saying that, because I haven't read it cover to cover, so you're saying that even then it's still attached to the setting?
The some of it is attached to the setting, like some of the classes I wouldn't run with, or I would tinker with them a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's sort of a thing, So I would, and plus I played with it before in the 5th edition campaign world setting I was running. I did sort of a subgroup, and let's just play Hyperborea thing here, and just play around with it. And then it was a TPK because my players were 5th edition players, and I used to this, and I'm like, shit, the hell with it then.
Ah, dang.
Mage, you mentioned Ravenloft as a setting, and it's a setting that I love. Ravenloft. I think it's a really good module, but it's a one shot. Yeah. The setting, I think, has a problem in that the basic conceit of a D&D game is your characters become more powerful and become scared of less. So you have to keep ramping up, but they still become more powerful and more fantastical. And marrying that over a length of time with a horror setting, where the key with horror is futility. What's one of the key aspects of horror is you can't always win. Things just get over your head. I think it's difficult to keep the tone right using D&D mechanics.
Well, I think it can be done. It's a different mindset going in. I think if the players understand that. But you're right. I mean, you come into D&D, especially 5th Ed, but even older D&D, the expectation of growth to heroic status. But if you go in with the, especially if you have players who are familiar with Call of Cthulhu, for instance, then they'll probably be more receptive to the fact that they're not necessarily going to become those superheroes, that even if they're at higher level, they're still vulnerable. And I think it can work.
But this is the problem with horror role-playing. Like, I ran Chill for ages. In college, I ran this amazing Chill campaign one year, and it lasted, but it ran out of steam because it's horror, and eventually the horror has to reach a crescendo of horror, and it has to be horrific, right? Cthulhu has the same problem for me, which is, as someone once said, what's the best you can hope for in a long-term Call of Cthulhu campaign? I only go crazy is the best you can hope for. Like, that's not a lot of heroic inspiration to keep going after a while, because after a while it's just like, I'm not touching that book. Fuck you. You touch the book. I'm not looking at that piece of paper. I'm going to go crazy if I look at that, So the best for me for horror is one-shots or short, solid beginning, middle, end micro campaigns. Long-term campaigns, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying I've never been able to successfully take part in it.
The advantage of the long-term campaign for horror is that your players will be more invested in their characters. And it's easy not to get attached to a one-shot character, but when you've grown the character through their experiences, you are a little more attached, and then the horror elements that come, you're a little more precious about what happens. So that is a plus. That is a pro. But I do tend to agree it's hard to sustain that horror. And I mean, for Call of Cthulhu, I was actually thinking about it after the stream the other day with Geek and Elfbait. It's like, if I were to run a Call of Cthulhu campaign, because I did Beyond the Supernatural as a kid, not very well, but and it occurred to me, it's like, I think something that, and it could work in Ravenloft, would be the key would be lean heavily on the mystery. So there's always that motivation to learn more. Then the horror will just kind of find its way into the mix.
Okay. So a little bit of mystery box J.J. Abrams type thing, right? Where you give them a little hint, but then introduce a new mystery on the heel of every new revelation. There's a new mystery.
You drop some abomination in front of them, it is just another monster to fight. But if you drip feed the information and let them solve crimes, that's where they'll be engaged. And when they're engaged, the horror will blindside them when it's like, oh crap, it's that. Right?
Yeah.
So how does Ravenloft achieve that? Sorry to cut you off, Joe. My apologies.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know. Otherwise, I'd be running Ravenloft.
I see. Okay, so it's an experiment. Got it.
This is my speculation on how I would run such a thing, a horror game. But the reason I haven't, as I said before, is I don't think I have that level for that particular genre. It's one thing for me to arbitrate my fantasy adventure game. It's another thing to try to generate that feeling of horror, and I don't think I'd be successful at that. That's why I haven't, my big stumbling block, why I haven't actually gone in full force and done it.
Well,
one thing I did was,
you don't know. You don't know until you try. That's the thing,
right? And I'm already running 4 games, so that's another stumbling block. I don't want
the bandwidth. Yeah, it's been the summer coming up where I'm trying to scale back a little bit to have more of a life on the weekends, So the thing I did with Cthulhu is I stole stuff from it for the 5e campaign, where I made the whole faction of basically we're trying to bring Cthulhu back, and Ryleth and all that sort of thing. And they were behind the scenes machinations and this and that, but they were the enemy that wasn't found out until the very end, who was behind all of the stuff, right? But in the meantime, they were having to fight Cthulhu like horrors, and the Kraken Society was the group from Cthulhu trying to bring stuff back in the Forgotten Realms, and another group, the Arcane Order, was trying to stop them and this and that. And the players got involved in it, and I brought in some insanity point system, and it broke the world, which is what I love to do with any Forgotten Realms setting, is break the entire setting, right? I want to make it my own. Obey Cthulhu, perfect, man. So I just wanted to break it up and throw some elements of horror in there, but otherwise it was a heroic style, of course, 5e campaign system. But what I'm going to do now is they're still in the world, and due to events and things that transpired, there's even more of those things in the world now. And I'm using Joe Block, the Greyhawk Ragnar, Joe Block. You ever seen his channel, guys?
Yep.
He's the master of all things Greyhawk, right? But he put out a book basically called The Swords of Cthulhu that he took all the public stuff that has gone beyond copyright, so we could publish it, that Lovecraft put out there, and he statted it up for what is the equivalent of a first or second edition game book. There it is, boom. It's a fantastic book. He just actually just did an interview with Professor Dungeon Master. I hope it got him a lot of sales, and so I'm using that for my second edition campaign. I'm gonna keep Cthulhu elements in there and bring some horror and like what the hell is from Cthulhu in it, but I'm not gonna run a Call of Cthulhu campaign. Well, the one thing I did run with Call of Cthulhu was that Berlin book they put out a few years back. Once my brother's mage got to 20th level and he had all the bells and whistles, I dropped him into a magic-free world of Berlin in 1930 just to fuck with him.
Oh, Achtung Cthulhu? You talking about Achtung Cthulhu?
I think that's what it was. Yeah. Just to mess with him, So yeah, I dropped him into Berlin at the time and just let him flounder for a while with some fun.
Do you guys know the setting Primeval Thule? Or Primeval Thule, if we're going to be really, really pedantic about it.
I've heard the name. I've never.
So it's Sasquatch Games or Sasquatch Press, and I backed the Kickstarter for it for 5e back in the day when it came out, because I was really excited, because what they were promising me was Conan versus Cthulhu was the basis premise of what this campaign was going to be like.
Oh, nice.
So I got it. I was super excited, and I read it, and it was D&D. It was just D&D again. And I was like, I would love for someone to really do a Savage Swords versus the Outer Dark game. You know what I mean? Like, just someone publish that, and I'll throw buckets of money at you. I'll take out a loan. I'll sell my cat. Like, I'm in. But no one does it. It's just elves.
We don't necessarily need new mechanics. You can just put that kind of style.
Yeah, I just don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
I want someone else to do the heavy lifting and then deliver me the product, so I can go, oh, thank you very much, and run a campaign doing that, which would be so much.
Here's my hard-earned cash. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
exactly. What about Shadow Dark? You guys you played with that at least a little bit or anything?
I'm not a dungeon delver, so it's not for me.
I downloaded her starter pack mainly because I want to run the adventure that was published within. I don't know. You can appreciate the work she put into it, but I don't think the blend that she created is for me. It's a little too many of the modern mechanics. But there's some things I think she does right. Like it is pared back. It is old school in that regard. More vulnerable characters, things like that. I don't necessarily like the torch, the real-time torch mechanics she's got. I think that's a little too wonky. But at least it's interesting. At least it's new.
I would ignore the torch stuff. I could play in a game that somebody would DM it, and a lot of my guys I play with, they like that. They're going to DM it, and we actually did a live stream of us playing our Friday night group, and we swore we'd never do a live stream of us playing because we get canceled instantly. So we all were kind of on our, we had filtered a little bit just to give it a shot, and it was fun, but it's not something, because you guys see what I like for a campaign, long-term campaigns, and get to higher levels and complexity. The system doesn't lend itself to that for me, but for what it is, it's well done. It's just not.
There's a lot of good work put into it for sure, and it's like I want to carefully choose my words. I don't want to slag the work she's done. I know a lot of people like it, but it's one of those things. I look at it and go, okay, I'll just play OSE or basic D&D.
I mean, I respect it for the fact that it appears to be a serious and well-meaning attempt to get people from the newer school into old school style of play.
Agreed.
And that's what it has going for it.
Everything I've read about how she built it up, it's you got to give her respect. Like, she went to cons, she play tested the hell out of her game at conventions, brought people in. She didn't just flash in the pan, write a book, and say, "Hey, I've got a new book." She put in the work.
Absolutely.
Absolute pro.
Much respect to her on that. It's just not for me. It's not my taste. It's not my style. The big game I'm waiting for, and I can't wait for the Kickstarter to fulfill this summer, is Dragonbane from Free League. Oh, I can't wait for this game.
What's the gist of it? I haven't
So it's
heard of that.
basically during the 80s and 90s in Sweden, Drakar Drakar was basically Demons and Dragons was the #1 fantasy game.
Mhm.
So what they've done is they've basically modernized it a little bit, and they're re-releasing it in English as Dragonbane because they can't call it Dragons and Demons because then D&D and they'll get into a whole.
Oh, yeah.
But it's basically it's a less horrific Scandi fantasy game, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because if you ever look at Scandi fantasy games, they're all about the horror. They're all about
Mhm.
how inhuman everything can be and how desperate and desolate it is. This is more fun, and one of their playable character races right out of the box in the setting is duck people. And I'm telling you, I get to
Duck?
play. Oh yeah,
Duck?
and I will be ducks, and I will be playing. I will get someone to run a game, or I will run a game, and this NPC will show up, which will be Sir Drake Mallardly, and he'll be
Mhm.
whatever a paladin is, and he's a duck. And I tell you right now, sir, we will have a great time playing.
Come on, we got to go for the low-hanging fruit. We all know that's foul. That is
Oh, it's gonna be
foul.
foul, so foul.
Oh God.
I played one session of Simba Room, which I believe is meant to sort of emulate that sort of
It's
sort
dark.
of dark fantasy,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. It didn't do enough to me to make me want to buy it, but I would certainly, if someone was running a game of it, I would certainly play in it because
Did you
I
play the 5e version or the original system?
I don't know. It was if I tell you the year I played it, it was 2018. It was at
Oh no,
the
then
UK
that was
Games
the
Expo.
original. That was the original Simba.
So it's
Room,
probably, yeah.
I think when it comes to sitting in on a one-shot or playing, I'll play any game. I just the amount of time it'll take me to learn a new system and then get my players, and it's like, no, I'm already married to the games I like.
Mhm.
You know, I hit 50. It's like I don't want to keep learning new stuff. I have shelves and shelves of books as it is that I'm never going to use. So I've got my games.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know how old. I don't know. Joe's already said how old he is. I don't know how old Bear is, but I'm guessing
52, turning 53 in July.
Yep.
you're the same age as Joe.
Yeah.
So
I'm the
Sean,
baby
you
of
are
the group.
you are the baby here. Yes, you are the baby.
How
I'm in
old are you,
between.
Geek?
51.
51.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I know I don't look
Maybe.
it. I know I look 10 years younger.
You really do. Listen, if I shave this beard off, I could easily pass for 51.
Yeah.
Easily.
Well, Asmodeus never shaves his beard, so I'm going to keep
It's the source of his power.
Yeah, that and the scepter and the horns. The chicks dig the horns there.
No,
you know,
it's
so.
it's the beard. It's got to be the beard.
What day? Early July, Daniel. I'm smart enough not to give out my birth date on the open internet, but early first week of July, period. But here's the thing. Okay, so Simba Room's great. We just did a review of it on my channel, which was really cool. Free League, in my opinion, is the greatest friend to YouTube reviews you could ever have. If you reach out to them and say, hi, this is what I do. Here's my channel. I would love to review some of your products. They will send you their entire PDF catalog to review.
Jesus.
They will ask you to pick a game from their catalog, and they'll send you everything in print for it. So for me, I did Blade Runner. Hello, Beans, you made it. Oh, so nice to see you, buddy. Okay. And then when their new stuff comes out, they'll continue, if you reach out to them, they'll continue to support it and all that. Unlike some companies that are like, it's like trying to squeeze blood out of a stone to get even a free PDF out of them. Free League will bombard you with material. They're happy. They'll say, hey, let us know if you want to have us on for an interview. These guys are like the patron saints of gaming these days for me. They're so, wow, okay, you're happy. They're so much better. They're really doing it right. And it shows because their fan support is so big now. And people are buying their products and people are happy to have them because these guys know how to do the game right. And it's just the way it is. Whether you don't like their stuff or not is not the issue. It's their attitude towards their fan base, promotion, and everything. They're just top notch.
That matters. That really does matter. In these days, especially with Wizards of the Coast stepping on their own
Jesus.
left and right. You know what I mean? When you have somebody who's out there supporting players and gaming, you know, putting public publishing things for gamers by gamers who like gamers rather than the big corporate overlords who just want to, you know, rape and pillage gamers. It's a big difference, you know? It's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like this time will pass. The Stranger Things newbies, it will pass. And if anything wants to prove that, the fact that the Dungeons and Dragons movie, The Honor Amongst Thieves, has over a 90% rating from both reviewers and the audience, and was a bomb. Shows the D&D, the fad is dying. And a lot of these people are going to leave the hobby just like they did in the late 90s. It's going to be a void. And those of us who are left
Yep.
You know, if these companies continue to shit on us as much as they do, pardon my French,
Right.
it's, you know, how can
Yeah.
they expect us to support them when all those big monies are gone and we're the ones keeping them alive? When what's his name said, people like me, referring to white middle-aged men, can't leave the hobby fast enough. All I thought to myself was, what percentage of sales do you think you have left if that happens?
We're not their target demographic. That's the thing. They are looking to appeal to the latest generation, but it is a generation who want things quickly, things now, immediate gratification, because because they're used to being able to get hold of those. Everything's at the fingertips. And it's just the way society has changed in that sense.
Get to the point, Geek. I want your point now.
Yeah.
Come on, man, put it out.
That is my
Send me a text message. Let's go.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think that the big thing that's going to hurt them too. Stranger Things is ending. Big Bang Theory is over with, and now when you have Critical Role, who's going to start, using their own new systems, which, by the way, Daggerheart, a dagger through the heart of Wizards of the Coast, perfect name for this system, right? They're going to use their own system coming up when they release it. I think they're going to have the new system on Gen Con, and they're going to switch over. And these new people who like Critical Role are going to follow Critical Role and whatever system they use, right? Wizards of the Coast hit its top peak of the market a year or two ago, and they're going downhill ever since. And once they realize that they just sunk $68 trillion into a VTT that nobody wants to play, nobody can afford, and nobody has a system to run, what are they going to have except a huge debt, and they're going to have to sell themselves off? That's
Were they predicting the VTT was going to be a $30 a month subscription?
Yeah, my ass.
Listen, Joe, I agree with you 100%, Joe. I think within 5 years, we're going to see Hasbro divest themselves of WotC, or they're going to do what Hasbro does with IPs, bury it.
Yeah.
And
then it'll just be us again. And all the people there, so I look at these new Johnny come latelys. It's like the people who started buying vinyl records, the millennials who started buying vinyl records about 7 years ago because it's cool, and yet they never played them, but they wanted vinyl on the shelf next to that crappy ass record player they bought from like Target, right? That's the same thing we're going to get. We're going to have a bunch of role playing game books on the shelf as, oh, I used to do that, and here's my dice. And do you play? No, it was just a thing I did for a while, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's okay, Beans, I love you, but you got to go. Basically, this is the thing with role playing. It is cyclical in its popularity. Super popular in the 80s, not so much in the 90s. 3E brought it back in the early 2000s, died off around 2010. 5E brought it back, right? This is the wave of cycle we've been on with it.
And I think what happened with 4th edition showed the fickleness of role playing game fans, because so many jumped ship to go to Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Well, this is the hubris of the current Wizards of the Coast mentality, which is whatever we do, they will absorb, they will eat it. And it's like, did you learn nothing from your 4E expedition? People, your fans will stop purchasing stuff hard. TSR learned this the hard way. We would have thought you learned it the hard way, but apparently you didn't. Companies like Chaosium and Palladium and all that can do very well with their regular, dedicated, loyal fans.
Yeah.
But if you notice something, they don't stray far from the line.
Yeah.
They don't offend or alienate those loyal fans, because guys like Symbiota and all them understand that's what's paying the bills. That's what's keeping the lights on. Everything else is, extra. WotC has this mentality in their head. I worked in the film industry for over 20 years, okay? And this is a film industry mentality. It's this, when we were working on Battlefield Earth, everybody from the States that was here in Montreal shooting was walking around thinking they were making the next Star Wars.
Yeah.
All of us Canadians are looking at the script and going, I don't think they're seeing the same script we're seeing. This was a paycheck and that's it. But they were convinced they were making the next big thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is the WotC mentality. They think that everything they're doing is going to be the next big thing. They got lucky with 5e. They got really lucky with 5e.
Well, the people who developed 5e, they loved the game, and they wanted to make a product that would sing.
How many of them are left, Mage? Just think about that for a second. Look at
they're all gone. They got fired.
They're all gone, or they're all canceled, or they're all, no longer around.
Yeah,
That's not a
it's
good
funny
thing.
as you think about it. What they're doing, it's like the opposite of the Star Trek movies. Every even Star Trek movie was good. Every even number Wizards of the Coast D&D edition it leads to the shitter, right? Second edition
Yeah.
led downhill. Fourth edition led downhill. Now sixth edition is going to lead downhill because this is sixth edition. Don't let them fool you, right?
Mhm.
I'll fight you on that Star Trek thing, but that's just me. I'll fight you on it, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about role playing. We're here to talk about this stuff, and I agree. The biggest disappointment of 5e for me was while it was D&D Next, they had promised me modularity. They had promised me that I was going to be able to pick and choose how the game system worked and build my own system, like what Fusion tried years ago. And I'm like, ooh, this could be good because I like a very specific style of D&D, and I'll be able to turn off this and turn on that. Great. And then what they gave me was just Forgotten Realms, the role-playing game. And I'm like, ugh, like it's just too
There
much.
is a level of modularity in 5e, but yeah, there are certain things you can't remove from the game and still have it work.
Even
Like
if you
everybody
try, the
getting
players
spells.
protest. The players revolt if you try. Well, I'm not going to have feats. Why? Wash. All right, we'll have feats. Shut up.
I think it depends. I think it depends on your group and how much trust the players have got. And I haven't had that sort of issue with my players because when I was adapting 5th edition, I had already exposed them to 1st edition. And the only reason why I went back to 5th edition was because we couldn't meet face to face. And when I ran 1st edition, one of my core ways of running it was that the nuts and bolts are hidden in the Dungeon Master's Guide. None of my players ever read the Dungeon Master's Guide. That allowed me to pick and choose which mechanics I wanted to use, how I wanted to apply them, and because I was comfortable with it, I was able to run the game fast and smooth at the table, making it up as I went along. I was using the core of 1st edition, but I was making all sorts of changes around the edges. When it came to running online, when players need to know what their modifiers are and click on certain parts of the character sheet in order to roll dice or whatever, and are constantly asking, what dice do I roll, blah, 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 blah. If I'm at a table, I just say, just roll me a d20, tell me what you get. And I'd have all the because I was so familiar with how it all worked, they just tell me I rolled 15. I could say, oh, that's hit or that's missed. I could tell them straight away without, because I'm the sort of nerd who's got all their THACOs or whatever memorized. So I was able to run it really smoothly. But when it came to running online, it ground to a bit of a halt.
Interesting
with them. And so I went back to 5th edition because all the character sheets are set up and they were familiar with the rules, and it ran more smoothly. But I have issues with 5th edition, with it being very much you start off as some form of hero and you just become more of a hero. I like the journey to become a hero. And
Agreed.
So I made a lot of changes, made a lot of hacks to roll it back, and I ran them through the Lost City, the Goodman Games conversion.
Oh, nice!
And it was going really, really well. But even then, the further I got into it, the more I had to wrestle with the system. I had to wrestle with encounters in there in order to keep the feel. And eventually, I've turned around and I've said, if you want me to continue, that game's on hiatus at the moment. If you want me to continue with that, we're going to run it with 1st edition, 2nd edition, OSE, whatever. Decide it's not going to be 5th edition. Your characters are going to be converted to this other system because I can just run it more smoothly.
Hey guys, I gotta say, I gotta drop, but this has been a blast. All right, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for joining in.
Thanks for the invite,
as you go. Elf,
oh man, hey Elf.
Mr. Joe.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man? Sorry, I missed you too, buddy. I got to hit the gym. My nephew is waiting, texting me patiently. Where are we going? When are we going? I'm like, all right. So, all right,
have a good workout. Don't
thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one, Joe.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
But Geek, it's the same thing for me. Like, I don't want to run 5e. But when I started trying to run OSE on Roll20, when I ran it at a table, it was brilliant. When I tried to run it on Roll20, it was clunky. It felt awkward. When I tried to run Castles and Crusades, it was clunky, it was awkward, and I'm a Roll20 ambassador, so I won't say anything bad about Roll20 because they give me the game, they give me the system for free every year, and I get lots of nice little perks. It's fabulous, it's wonderful, but 5e works like a dream in Roll20. My players can upgrade their characters. We get into the game. I can just drag monsters onto the map from the compendium. It's really great, and it's a testament to that style of play.
Yeah.
Where it falls down is house rules. Where it falls down is anything that changes the core mechanic that you're doing differently at your game. Like if I want to use the massive damage rules, there's no ability to turn that feature on in Roll20, stuff like that. So it's getting to the point with me where this 5e campaign I'm running, I'm officially making it the last 5e campaign I run. I have no 5e anymore. I've sold all my 5e. It's gone. It doesn't exist in my world. And this is the last vestige of it that I'm getting rid of. What I'm going to play next, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
When you figure it out, let me know, because I'm still trying to get out from under 5e.
It's hard, man. It's hard because it's so easy.
All my gaming's online these days because I just moved to 1,000 miles away from my gaming group this last year. So everybody I know, and then so still trying to build up those other players, but 5e still is so easy for people to get into because there's so much support out there. And you mentioned earlier, Bear, and I agree with this. D&D 5e, I have to. So old school D&D was dangerous. D&D 5e, I have to try super hard to threaten the party. To the point where I feel like a jerk. Yeah, I mean, you have to put so much effort into it. You really feel like you're pushing that adversarial GM angle because you're having to either dogpile on the players or or build those encounters that are just insanely tough.
Yeah. Or relentless encounters.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned in the one thing where they did 3 deadly battles back to back and didn't have time to pull back and still were doing okay.
Yet you'll run some goblin archers that decimate them.
Yeah.
It's so swingy. It's so swingy as a system. It frustrates me for that because it's the CR system is for crap. It does nothing. It's the goggles do nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah, for my own health as a gamer, and my own love of the hobby, I'm like dedicated to finding other games to run and opportunities to run them and even play more because it's killing the joy.
Yeah.
And I'm like a forever DM. For me, that's by choice. I love to run games. I love to world build. But it says a lot if I'm thinking about like maybe I need to find a new hobby.
I've felt that way too. But what I find the best thing to do in that situation is whatever game I'm playing that's pissing me off, I'm immediately going to play a completely different genre in a different game. So if I'm playing D&D, it's pissing me off. Let's play some Star Wars D6.
Oh yeah, I've got a Call of Cthulhu game coming up.
Let's play Call of Cthulhu. Let's play something else. Exactly. For me, I don't have time. I don't have time to run my company, work my full-time job, run my YouTube channel, and then design a Castles and Crusades adventure or design an OSC adventure. 5e with the compendium, like I said, drag and drop. I can set up a scenario on the fly and it'll run smoothly. And that is like the most insidious part of 5e for me because I want to be like, no, but it's like crap. It's really easy. It's like microwave food, it's not good for me, but I can do it really fast and get on.
I know D&D, so I can just homebrew and build D&D without even thinking. And so that's what keeps me running that.
Yeah. Sorry, Geek. We've gone away from initiative hard. I apologize.
we're in the rambling phase of the stream anyway.
It's the stream post amble.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we've exhausted the initiative topic. I can't think of anything.
We've lost initiative.
Yeah, we've lost
initiative. Oh, I like that. Well done.
Yes.
Well, zombies always go last, so.
Well, yeah, I'm super late to the stream anyways. I had to clear up some stuff in RL, so.
It's life, man.
Yeah.
This is the way it is. I don't know how old you are, but at my age, it's like
I am 52.
there you go, same age as me. So there you go. You're in the
One
same
of
boat.
us. One of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gibble gobble, one of us. Look, we all clearly still love role playing.
Yep.
All of us. Everybody in the chat, everybody here, we all love it. We clearly will keep role playing until they pry the dice from our stone cold hands, right? That's just the way it's going to be. How do we find the D&D? Because each one of us, and everybody in the chat has things they like about every version of D&D and things they dislike about every version of D&D. And I pose this as a question, can there be an ultimate D&D hack, official, whatever the case may be, where it's modular enough that everybody can get what they want out of it and take out what they don't like?
It's
Can
a
it be
questing
done?
beast. Nope.
No,
you
let's get Ben on here.
no. I mean, like it's an unattainable objective because
Grail.
you will never. I reel against this concept of D&D was this back in the day. You hear all these guys scream it from the top. Back when I was playing D&D, it was this definitively. No, it wasn't, because I was playing at the same time, and my D&D wasn't like that.
Old school, playing in '85, and we never played the way the
Started
OSR
in
guys
'79. Yeah, and for me, it was always people like story gaming. That's all new stuff. No.
Nope.
We had long, drawn-out stories where we were going to tell massive tales and, weird character races. No. I mean, even Gygax writes about weird character races. So this idea that there is a, platonic D&D.
No, but an individual can certainly either find the game or modify the game to their tastes, but you're never going to find the game that appeals to absolutely everyone. And this is why I always advocate run the game you want to run, and the players who are like-minded will find you.
Yeah, I try not to be down on 5e because I know that for lots of people that is their beloved version of the game.
Absolutely.
Just like for me, it was whatever edition I was playing at the time. I played all editions except for 4th and had fun with all of them. The weird thing that I keep finding out is no matter what system which version I'm playing, the game pretty much ends up being the same for me. I have the same fun for the most part.
Yep.
It's the rule set doesn't really transform the experience for me all that much.
But that's all going to boil down to the DM, right? Or to the GM. They're the person that has to mitigate the rules and adjudicate. So for them, if they have a handle on it, like Yield Geek was saying earlier about how he runs with the DMG and he just tells them roll this, roll that, do that. Or Professor Dungeon Master's latest video about the magic number of
8.
Yeah, the magic number of 8. Just run that. If you know the game that well, you can control the table enough to run the game and have as much fun as you want as the DM at that point in time. And your players are just there to kill monsters, get treasure, and look cool, so they're going to have fun no matter what. It's when we run into the problem, and you're only going to usually encounter this when you play with strangers online, of people who want to argue rules with you, people who say, well, no, the rule goes this way, or no, it goes that way, or it's this or that or the other thing. That's when you start getting into these addition problems. That's where you start getting into this whole 4E does this, or 3E does this, or 2E does that. And that's a fall down, I think, for all of us. Because, as I think it was Geek said earlier, it all depends on your players, and how you know your table. Well, when you're playing with strangers, you don't have that same thing. So it's why I won't be a professional DM ever, because I'll just piss people off.
I've done that. It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
But you'll inevitably run to that point where somebody's paying you, and they'll be like, "Well, I'm paying you, so you give me the experience I want." And
just want to come to a few of the comments in chat. I think Gene's got it right here. One of the main things with early editions of the of D&D is you can run games on the fly. Yes, there were random dungeon systems, there were that sort of things built into they're in the rule books, and it was easy to do. And you can do it with 5th edition as long as you've got players with as long as you've got the right sort of mindset. But And I do want to bring this one up. There's two comments, and I'm going to make a decision onto the pronunciation here because this is a British stream, so this is Lieutenant
Tibbles.
Lieutenant, well, it's Canada, so
Yeah, we
Lieutenant.
pronounce it Lieutenant here too. So
Yep.
I don't know.
Sorry,
we all
Alf.
got an F, but
I'm in Quebec, so do I have to say lieutenant? Do I have to say lieutenant? Is that it?
Lieutenant.
depends on if you want your neighbors to look at you funny or not. But
Well, here they won't.
I will say the French accent is probably the only one I can pull off with any consistency at a table. But all these old problems with the older systems, all these problems with older systems with VTTs being clunky compared to the smoothness of using Fit5e, a result of the system itself being hard to translate to the VTT, or is it that because it's a lack of coders working on bringing over these older systems?
I can answer this.
Well, given that MERP, which is far clunkier than AD&D, works really nicely on a VTT because somebody put the time into designing a character sheet that dealt with the awkward bits in a very simple and effective manner. I think it's this latter one.
Foundry VTT. Any
I've not
game
played it.
you
I've not used
want
it.
to run, someone has made the module for it for Foundry VTT. And if they haven't made the module, James, who hangs out and actually plays in my Monday night game, has a program that he created, or a module he created within Foundry VTT, where you can then make it yourself and add everything in and do all your stuff. Now, as a Roll20 ambassador, I certainly cannot encourage you to go play with Foundry VTT, but let's be honest, if you've got the time, because Foundry VTT is like, you got to put the work in because you got to set everything up and get everything ready and do everything. You can't just drag and drop, but it's there. There are OSE modules, there are Pathfinder modules, there's MERP modules, there's 1E, 2E, 4E, you name it. Cyberpunk, everything.
My stumbling block here with Foundry, and I think this is one thing that WotC are going to suffer with their new VTT, is that I came to play online because I pretty much had to when we were all told to stay in our homes about 3 years ago. And as a result, the first one I found was Roll20. And I learnt how to make Roll20 work for me. I'm old. I'm 51. It takes time to pick up new ideas. And the only thing that's really stopped me getting into Foundry is I'd have to learn the whole new nuts and bolts. And how many people out there are going to pick up a new VTT and learn all the new nuts and bolts when there are these established ones out there in the market? There's Foundry is established. It's just I got into Roll20 beforehand because it was all completely free. I have paid for it for a year, so I've got the extended storage which I needed to run a number of campaigns, but it was there, it was free. That's what made me pick it over Foundry, because Foundry had that cost if you wanted to be a DM. And as a result, I've learned Roll20, which makes me dig my heels in to get another one, pay for another one, which I also have to learn.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same camp myself. I'm like, I end up having to weigh it against, am I going to get anything more out of learning this new tool that is really worth the time I'm going to put into learning the new tool? I mean, what is the cost benefit analysis of my time there? At the end of the day, it's like, if it's only like a 5% bump in, playability, or 10% for me or whatever, it's like, it's just not worth my time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen,
I found that OSE works is no problem with Foundry. When I ran my first edition AD&D, it was clunky. I didn't much care for it, but OSE is fine. Obviously, 5th edition is pretty smooth too.
Yeah, someone said it, and I agree with them. They said Fantasy Grounds is Mac, Roll20 is PC, and Foundry is Linux. And that's the best way to look at the mindset. So if you just want to click on the button and have it do the thing, Fantasy Grounds is going to be perfect for you. You're not going to be doing a lot of customization. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff. If you like to have some customization and do your own thing, Roll20, you can write macros. You can learn how to do APIs. You can even write your own character sheets. If you know the HTML, CSS, cascading style sheet stuff, you can do really great stuff. But if you really want to dig into the nuts and bolts and tweak it and move it and add modules and take things out, Foundry is going to keep you happy forever because you're going to be able to tweak it until the end of time. And that's what it's going to boil down to. For me, I choose Roll20, not because I'm in their ambassador program, because it's easiest. It requires the least amount of prep time for me. And in the middle of an adventure, I can have them role play for a bit while I grab a map and create a new screen to go deal with that combat that they're just suddenly in. So it works for me in that regard. Foundry, I realized I had to do a metric crap ton, and that's a lot, of prep before I could run a game, and it made it very difficult without. It wasn't that it was difficult; it was just complicated to adjust it on the fly, and I didn't have the time to invest. One
of the best combos I have for when I'm running 5e is I just use Owlbear Rodeo and D&D Beyond. All my players are on D&D Beyond, except for one guy who he's like, I want to do the real experience. I want to roll real dice, and I want to use a paper character sheet. And I'm like, all right, cool. I trust you.
Fair enough.
He's also the guy who told me if we ever switch games, he's just going to wait till we come back to 5e. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool.
5e loyalist can be a 5e loyalist. Nothing wrong with that.
It's not even a loyalist. He's like, I don't have time to learn another game.
There is that too.
So, but no, I mean, Owlbear and D&D Beyond works really well. Owlbear Rodeo, you can just drag and drop a map in there basically, and tokens are easy, and I don't need dynamic lighting or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's about the closest thing to like paper battle maps and stuff you'll ever really run into. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Who is it that I think it was in one of the games Geek ran where somebody had thrown up a blank piece of graph paper in Owlbear so the party could map the dungeon as they went along.
Oh, nice.
Then we found started slowing things down so much we moved to Roll20.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yes. Owlbear has performance issues on some of our machines, unfortunately.
That's a bummer.
But.
Well, gentlemen, I hate to be that guy, but I gotta say goodnight. I gotta go get some stuff done and have some supper before I start the live stream over on my channel with Len. So if anybody wants to stop by at 8:00, Len Pimentel's going to be on. We're talking about his new game. Guys, it was a pleasure hanging out with you tonight. Mr. Geek, sir, lovely to finally meet us and say hi.
No problem. It's been good
to have you on for a 4-color cafe. We'll work it out somehow. We'll get you on. We'll get Mage on. Elfman, you're more than welcome as well.
Cool.
I'm gonna see what I can do. But guys, thank you so much, everybody in the chat. Thank you for
thanks, Pat.
Putting up with my nonsense and my Canadian vulgarities.
See you around the interwebs.
You said sorry with the wrong inflection. Oh my God, you horrible beast.
I think what Brian says here is right as well. As and certainly for people, I'm gonna be very stereotypical here. People of our age, quite often we just sort of drift back to what we know, and we started with pencil and paper and dice, and it's what we are almost certainly most comfortable with.
It's not just obviously the what we're comfortable with, but the live versus the VTT, you'll just never beat the live feeling. So I'm always going to, if you give me a choice, it would always be get around my table or playing in person, because that's just a whole different experience.
It is, yeah.
Playing online is a matter of necessity in some cases, like if you're in England and I'm in Canada and we want to play, well, yeah, that's how we do it. But the moment I got a plane ticket to England, it's like, all right, let's plan a live game. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sean is available for voiceover work, acting, all that sort of stuff. So pay him so he can afford a plane ticket over to England. And Elfbait as well. Are you available for voiceover work and acting?
Me?
But no, of course, I mean, yeah, playing face to face is what you want. Is what you want to do. Brian, I would love to go to a convention in North America. I have never, ever ventured west of Ireland. I have flown long distances east, but never west, and never far enough east to get as far as America.
Yeah, I've been across the Pacific, but I have not been across the Atlantic. Been all over the country, this country.
I've been
even dipped a few
across
toes into Canada. Do you feel dirty at Canada?
I've flown over parts of the Pacific, parts of the Indian Ocean, flown over the entirety of Asia, flown over the top. I've been to Australia basically, which is right around the other side of the planet. But I've never been west. Furthest west I've been is Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Well, if you find yourself knowing you're coming to North America, we'll have to make a plan then. Find a central place, because I think Omanal's in Texas, Elfbait's in not Louisiana, St. Louis. That's so. I mean, we're probably looking at something like Ohio or something like that. Is more or less central to everybody.
From what I know of the layout of America, it sounds like Missouri is going to be in the middle of all of these,
depending on who else is coming. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to actually go somewhere worth going, we could always go to Chicago instead of Missouri.
Chicago's about a 12-hour drive from me.
Yeah, it's going to be less of a drive than St. Louis, though.
Granted, if he comes to Toronto, he's got me, the Dungeon Master, General Nut, and of course Grumpy Slan is in Montreal. That's only a 6-hour drive away, and and Bear, Montreal, 6-hour drive. So.
And then Slan and Bear can share the petrol.
Yeah, there
gas,
you go.
as you call it over there.
We'll call it petrol, just in honor of your visit.
Yeah. We're calling it petrol because this is a British stream.
Sure, it's your stream. We'll let you have it this time.
Yeah. Yes. Anyhow, we are very much in the rambling stage of the.
You're in that wind down.
Yes, yes, and it is nice to see that Elfbait, you are setting up an online game for us all to enjoy in a week and a half. I'm looking forward to it.
My big problem on that one is I think I might have too many interested parties, because the scenario really doesn't play with a mob of characters. Yeah, I mean, I said it for 2 to 4.
Right.
I figured I didn't want to get too big with my first real foray into online play with people outside my regular group. So I built a pretty narrow scenario that's set up for a one-shotty kind of a setting, but it does not play well with just a gaggle of characters.
And all scenarios have the potential to not survive the exposure to players as well.
Yeah.
But I have characters being a minibus and not a car. That's what Slan says.
They're not all in it. I mean, the individual players don't start in a car. The individual players start in their individual vehicles, individual characters in their vehicles, and then they're kind of the whole setup is you're on a isolated road, late fall, snow on the ground. You come across a car that's stopped in the middle of the road. Mystery ensues, and so everybody is an individual, or if the players decide, sharing a vehicle, but the pre-gens so far are a cop, like a sheriff, a trucker, and a local. Figure that's 3 different perspectives on the region. Trucker probably goes through there frequently, sheriff's probably familiar with the area, locals from the area. Might have one, the 4th pre-gen be another passing through kind of a person and go with that. But the idea is, you come across this scene and we go from there.
Right.
Because I feel like there's far too few Call of Cthulhu games scenarios that, at least the ones I've been exposed to, I mentioned this in our stream that start in the moment of the thing happening. Way too many of them are you've been sent to do the thing. You've received correspondence that guides you to the thing. And very few of them are just like, you're on your way to whatever and horror.
I will say the one I've run which has a similar setup is Deadlight. I don't know if you've read that one or encountered it, but all the characters are in a car heading back to their home from a night out when the thing happens. So it's probably a similar sort of setup in that sense, but certainly as a start.
Yeah, I feel like there's a very much a different feel to a scenario that puts the players like into the action as just people who happen by it, as opposed to people who are on a mission to deal with it. Just that very, even if you take the same ill-prepared people, but you give them the knowledge that they're going, oh, we're going to go get this artifact from da da da, unless you throw a monkey wrench into it and you're going to the museum to get the artifact, and players are all expecting the artifact to be cursed or somebody to be after the artifact, and you get there and like it's nothing to do with the artifact. You're at the museum getting the artifact, and wait, a mummy just woke up in the exhibits elsewhere. I mean, that would be a way to pull it off, but it's definitely a different psychology. But no, I mean, I guess long answer, but yes, I am running a game.
Yeah. One thing, how long do you expect the session to last?
A few hours. I don't expect it to go too long because it's not too meaty of a scenario. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. That and I've got the Sisters of Mercy show that same night. So
right, okay.
So okay. I'm gonna need to get a nap because I'm gonna be up late because I'm old.
That's been the running theme of the show today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna have to de-stress, and napping is I don't medicate for any of my ADHD or anything. I medicate with naps. It's like basically I always joke I pretty much reboot myself. I turn myself off and turn myself back on again, and my day goes fine.
I should try that.
What's turning yourself off? I don't really know what turning yourself off is. I think
go lay down and fall asleep.
Well, eventually you get to the point where you just fall asleep wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Lay down and ideas just start bouncing into your head, and before you know it, it's 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anybody? Oh, go ahead. No, I was gonna go ahead. I was just gonna say from that beginning of that Lovecraft scenario that that I want to run on the 29th. Hopefully, this will get me rolling to run other games and other systems and stuff, because there's a lot of stuff I'd like to play and run, mostly run, that I just don't get a chance to with my Monday group. And
so you don't want us to do what we've done to Saxius in that Shadow of the Demon Lord game and just torment him to hell.
I mean, there's a time and place for that. I mean, if we're playing
in Saxius's game, apparently.
I gotta warn you, I do not do well with slapstick and stuff where it doesn't belong. So I mean, like, people being dumb in D&D and stuff is one thing, but like I think you've even mentioned it. Like, if you're playing Call of Cthulhu and people start acting weird and goofy, it wrecks it.
Yeah.
But if we're doing Star Wars and people are wisecracking and being their own personal Han Solo, that's cool because that's part of the genre. If we're doing superheroes and people are wisecracking and stuff, well, I mean, that's the entire trade dress of Spider-Man. It's like, so yeah, I mean, there's a time and place for it all. I mean, if I was running a grim, dark fantasy setting and people were making Monty Python jokes and just the typical fart and Frito humor, it might get annoying. But
Call of Cthulhu is a place for dark humor.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I even as the person running the game, I will often crack a joke just because, I mean, you sometimes need that release. That's why most horror movies have a funny moment or two, even the darkest of them.
Yeah, but they're placed strategically.
Exactly. But seeing as nothing in role playing is really strategically placed because it's all spontaneous and emergent, we just make them as we can. You know, if they start becoming too much and the game degenerates into Scooby-Doo, well, we'll probably still keep playing. It would have missed the mark. But don't get me wrong, I'm not like some stodgy, oh my god, you're ruining my game. No, that's not me.
That's the point when one of us gets nailed to a tree by our ankles or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Call of Cthulhu is easy to do because you could just insert extra weirdness. But yeah, one of the things I were mentioning in the stream earlier, when you pulled out BRP or basic fantasy role play or whatever it is, that would be a great setup if it was in 7th edition. Well, actually, it's still 6th edition, I think, because if you were to couple that with some of the stuff from Call of Cthulhu, you could have the makings of a really good dark fantasy game, especially if you look at the Cthulhu Dark Ages rules, where they talk about how the Dark Age perspective modifies how sanity works, for example.
I played in one Dark Ages scenario, a couple of sessions. It was really, really good. Really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
They put in there, like, grim life, disease, bloodshed, death doesn't tend to phase the medieval mindset. Even horrible monsters may not phase the medieval mindset because they thoroughly believe that they're there. In their mindset, the woods are full of goblins and elves and satyrs and things dark and dangerous. And so when they run into them, they're going to be less inclined to freak out than polite 1920s society.
But that's potentially more dangerous because if you don't freak out, you're more likely to stand and fight, and then you die.
Yeah, they actually brought up, there's a really good example in there that talks about if you have a priest could flat out run into a demon in the middle of the church, and what's going to horrify him isn't the fact that he ran into a demon, it's the fact that the Cthulhu monster broke the rules. How is he on hallowed ground? Yeah, that's what's gonna upset him. Not that there is a horrible monster, it's that it's breaking the rules as I know it as a Christian priest.
Yeah, and if the players can buy into that setting and the way it works, then it works really well. If players can just try and get into how the character would respond in that sort of situation, it is. I imagine it's quite difficult. It could be quite jarring initially, but certainly when we played it, I remember being little more than a sort of peasant henchman. Illiterate, of fairly low intellect, fairly low ability, to be honest. And my character just didn't understand what was going on, and got consumed by some entity at the end of it.
Hey, it's Call of Cthulhu. If you don't get consumed by something, you're not doing it right.
Well, and the 6th edition Dark Ages rules for Call of Cthulhu spends a good long section of the book, not long, but an adequate enough time describing the differences. So it's not just left for your own interpretation. Mm-hmm. It is nicely spelled out.
Well, I've not read the book. I just had that. I went in there knowing the way Call of Cthulhu worked. Still, it was my early days of Cthulhu. I hadn't run any Cthulhu at this point, and so I knew how it worked. And I hadn't read the book. I still haven't read the book. I haven't got the Dark Ages book, unfortunately. Something I do need to pick up at some point. But it didn't matter. It worked. It was suitably spooky. It was suitably horrific, and there were only a couple of us who were playing, and both of us lent into it and tried to play our pair of poor, stupid peasants who didn't really know what was going on to the best of our ability. Anyhow, I think that takes us perfectly to midnight, my time.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna have to get you an animated pumpkin that you can just press the button and it'll start flashing.
No flashbacks
Maybe-
to a really bad Halloween movie.
I still don't have my replacement motherboard. Company, hurry up! I keep getting messages saying, "Oh, the motherboards have arrived. We're just testing them. Once they're tested, we'll send you one out." And that last message was over the weekend, so hopefully I'll have the replacement motherboard for my new computer by the end of this week. So I haven't got OBS yet, but once I get OBS, then I can start thinking about these sort of extra little additions to the stream, because I know OBS has got that sort of functionality.
Mhm.
But we shall see. We shall see. But we have come to the point in the stream. If you want to talk, hear what we said about initiative, that was the first 2 hours. We've rambled for the last hour. Before I thank the two who are with me now, I am going to thank Bear and Joe the lawyer for joining us. And it's been nice to have a lot of new people in chat, people who from other channels coming and joining in, sharing the love, getting new people to talk to is always interesting. Great to see other people wanting to drop into my streams and have a chat. But it's been good fun. But I do have to thank Major's Musings, who's been with me throughout the entire stream, all 3 hours of it, and Elfbait, who's managed to pop in towards the end, because otherwise engaged with work at the beginning. So cheers, chaps. Shill your channels before you go.
Come one and come all to Mage's Musings. New video drops tomorrow. Latest review cap. We can find out what happened to the OSE crew who escaped into the night and were lost in the wilderness.
Excellent.
And tell them I'm sorry if it went bad.
Oh, it was your scenario, wasn't it?
Well, not quite, but a guest appearance, a prelude appearance of a scenario that Elfbait did give me to slip into the OSE campaign. So
Excellent.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And of course, I've got the Elfbait channel. Sunday streams. Occasionally they move to Monday when I want to engage folks from England.
Me.
But no, it's a lot of the live streams. Occasionally I pop in with a non-live stream, and then we're gonna at the Elfbait Discord. I'm going to start running games. So look there for the event announcements, and I've got Mondays entirely to myself. So if you are available at a time on a Monday, that's most likely where I'm going to be running games. So
Good. I mean, I play in a face-to-face game Monday evenings. But if you do run them on a Monday afternoon for me, I should be able to drop in. And join.
I mean, Sundays I have time too. It's just Mondays.
I don't.
I know. It's just like for the viewing public. But Jen works Mondays, so I'm left to my own devices. And while I have a nice giant game room full of stuff I could be working on, I'm never working on stuff. So I might as well fill the space with other stuff.
Put it to good use. Use it. Yeah, get games going, because that's why we talk about games. And
gotta find local gamers.
Yeah. Well, my Monday night is my chance to meet up with my local gaming group. So that's the thing. It's a face-to-face group, and that's something to cling on to and cherish.
Yeah, I would run after work, but that's a little late for me.
That would be far too late for me. I know you guys over there, where your clocks are wrong, you'd all be fine with that. But.
I would be able to start running as early as 8 on a weekday, or not a weekday, a work day. 8 my time,
which is 1 a.m. my time.
Sure, I mean if you want to get up really early. But anyways, the point was that I'm actually going to start trying to plug some games in, and we'll see what the interest is there. I mean, mostly it's the people that I've already talked to about it who want to get in on it. So surprise!
Yeah.
But
so that's how it begins. You start with your core, and then bring people in piecemeal.
Exactly. Hopefully, maybe even someday I'll get in a campaign going there. We'll see.
Cool.
Dare to dream.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I am looking for players to play a 5 or 6 session, roughly, Call of Cthulhu scenario. I've got Thursday nights penciled in for that. Thursday nights my time, which I know might be a bit of a pain for people on the wrong side of the Atlantic because of work hours and whatever. But it's flexible. It looks like I've got a couple of players so far. We'll see where it goes. If I have to plug it in of a weekend sometime, we'll go that route. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you all for taking part. Thank you everybody in chat. Been lots of good stuff tonight. Really good stream. Really enjoyed it. So cheers everybody. I'm going to sign off now. Go to bed because it is pumpkin time.
Good night, everyone.
All.
Good night, folks.